Thanks for coming. Come on in. Do you want a beer?
And we're going to start winning again.
Welcome to the Midwest Sense Podcast, where we make sense of it all. Brutally. I'm your host, Andrew, and we're here to give you a voice. Are you sick of the Midwest being ignored? Are you tired of Middle America having no voice? Obviously, we need another podcast with a bunch of white dudes giving hot takes from the flyover states. I think you found your new home. Hide your kids and maybe the wife. Grab that beer. You're going to need it, and join us. Solving all the world's problems is going to be a group project.
Live from Beyond Good Reason Studio.
Hello, Midwest!
You can find us at themidwestsense.com. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instant Grandma, Twitter, TikTok. Give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, a tickle, a slap, and whatever else people are doing online. We'll be coming out with a new episode every week, live from Beyond Good Reason Studio. What is good, my hindsight heroes? Welcome back to the Beyond Good Reason Studio. Raise your glass, salute your beer. It's Friday. Why does money always have to do with cleanliness? One person can be dirt poor and another person can be filthy rich.
Well, have you seen where dollar bills, usually go? I mean, let's not put a black light on that thing.
I think you should put a money launderer somewhere in the middle there, because both dirt poor and filthy rich are not clean.
Touche.
Very nice. Today, we have with us in the Beyond Good Reason studio, my partners in crime. Ben, how you doing? We got Ben.
I'm doing fantastic, Andrew. Doing fantastic.
Where can we find you?
You can find me at The Miserable Minnesotan on YouTube. We've got the NFL draft coming up next week, and even though you guys don't like sports, this is a huge draft for the Minnesota Vikings. Probably the biggest one in my lifetime, truthfully. They may be finding their quarterback of the future to distract us from all the misery in our normal Minnesotan days.
Do we have a prediction on who the QB might be?
There's talk of the Vikings trading up to get the third overall pick. They've got 2 first-round picks right now. They may trade up to get someone by the name of Drake May from UNC. Ooh. He may be, some people think he might be like a Patrick Mahomes type quarterback. So who knows?
Drake may or may not.
May or may not.
May or may not. In the other corner, we have the ever-elusive Uncle Bustin.
Hello, Andrew.
Thank you, Uncle Bustin. Thanks for coming. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Where do we find you?
Well, Andrew, you can find me at the end of your rainbow.
Oh, all right. All right.
I don't know if there's gold there.
Yep.
I am your host, Andrew, and we'll kick things off with notable things this week. Real quick, open floor. Anybody got anything?
I got to say, okay, I am fed up with medical bills, and I know I'm not the only one here, but it was one of those weeks, guys, where I've been in between insurance companies. So we had Blue Cross Blue Shield for a long time. Christy moved down her appointment at work. So then we moved on to like a medical sharing situation, which has been good for us. But I'm pretty sure they just make up the bills as they go. Because the same service, you never pay $100 for the same service that costs, $700. It just, nothing makes sense about it. My son, we thought he swallowed a battery. So we had to bring him to the emergency room. I was 99.9% sure as the dad he did not swallow the battery, but...
Because you keep better track of your batteries, of
yeah,
course.
I know where my batteries are. You know what I'm saying? But all that said, it was one of those like little round quarter size, flat batteries.
The delicious looking ones.
The really tasty ones, But we went in.
Yeah, the silver crackers.
So this kid, they give him sunglasses. They're trying to make him happy because he had to do the x-ray, and they gave him a popsicle. That was probably a $400 popsicle. I was so pissed, So all that said, they reprocessed the insurance, and the same bill that used to cost me $300 with the other insurance is now like $600-$700. And it just brought up the fact that what are we doing here?
Right.
Why would, if you go to a restaurant and the service, You know, you're buying a cheeseburger. The burger is the same either way at McDonald's.
Right.
Why? But just because of the card I hold, that burger could cost twice as much.
Yeah, they think that they can just get away with it because they're billing the insurance
And there's no line
company.
items that make sense. Like, you're not like, okay, well, how does this compare to another hospital? You know, can I shop around here? Is there some price transparency here? Because
apparently Trump did put in a bill specifically for price transparency.
So I was able to get a detailed billing, you know, line by line item for what we were paying for, but it still makes no sense. I have no frame of reference here.
Yeah.
Right.
And it certainly seems like you're getting ripped off.
It's a mafia. The whole thing's a
Such
mafia.
a mafia.
Well, and having that itemized list is so important in the first place. For instance, we had just an annual checkup for my son back over the summer, and our insurance had lapsed for him, but we weren't notified of that prior to the appointment.
Of course not, right?
We were notified after I got home with him from the appointment. They called me and they were like, you know his insurance is expired, right? No. So I ended up getting the bill in the mail, $800 for just an annual
You didn't pay it, right?
kids checkup. No, I did not pay it. Absolutely not.
Your insurance, when you get that back
I
up
already,
and running,
already did.
they have like
prorated it.
We know.
Yep. Okay.
Yep, that was done months ago.
Hey, I'm looking out for
But
your
I appreciate
green,
it.
man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I remember they
so-
processed before my son. So he went to the NICU when he was born for a week or two. And they processed and sent us the bill prior to him even being able to be put on our insurance because we didn't have all the proper documentation yet because he was so freaking young. And we get a $60,000 bill in the mail. I'm like, are we going to pay this?
Jeez.
I call the lady. I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying this. And she just cracks up. Yeah, of course you're not going to pay this. I'm like, well,
I'm surprised they sent it to you that fast, though.
yeah, it's so odd.
I wonder.
Just so eager for
It
the
ended
money.
up being like $2,000, you know, but
Yep.
Yeah.
But
all that
about the itemized list that I was talking about. So when I got that bill, I'm looking through it. I'm like, okay, how can it possibly be this expensive? And you know how at an annual checkup, they do, at least for kids, because he was 4 at the time, they do a fluoride polish towards the end of the checkup, and I always say no to that. Well, they charged me $70 for the fluoride.
$70.
So
Even though you said no.
even though I said no, so they're just slapping it on there. They're not even actually
They
checking the
don't care
boxes
because
for what's
most
been
people are going
done.
to pay it
Man,
without
there's
questioning.
Well, no, because the insurance company is going to pay it. So, but I just
That's true.
Yep.
Right.
just out of
That's
pure
true.
spite for this doctor's office, before I got the insurance retroactively covering it, I made sure the doctor took the fluoride off.
Amen,
So they
brother.
wouldn't
So they
even
don't get
charge
their-
the insurance company for
And
it.
doctors get paid what's called RVUs, which are, what is it? Restricted value units, relative value units. So it's basically like a commission for every little thing they
Kickbacks,
do.
essentially.
And that's a part of their compensation. So, and I'm not saying, and I guarantee you, like most of these doctors don't actually know what each one is crediting them, how it's totally going into their
Well, they
bonus
know they're
package.
getting money, and that's why they're prescribing all the pills like candy.
And you have the pharmaceutical companies going in there and trying to buy these doctors off to use certain drugs to give them incentives. It's just like in the financial industry.
There's also
people try
a
to do that.
devil's to play devil's advocate. There's also a CYA going on where you
Yeah,
know what, if
there
they
is.
if they don't suggest this and they don't prescribe this, now they're
But
held
the
liable.
CYA has gone from 10 vaccines through childhood to 700. I mean,
for sure.
70
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
realistically.
I would wonder if because part of my theory is that insurance being involved at all is the thing
it's
that is
exploded the cost. It's
Right.
insurance's fault.
You
without
pull
a doubt.
insurance, now all these doctors are out of a job unless prices start getting competitive. Now you have
Exactly.
competition between doctors because the insurance company doesn't care how much they pay because they're going to collect on their premiums regardless.
Exactly.
The more we pay, great, we'll just increase premiums. It doesn't matter. It's this big merry-go-round
And this
of,
is the
of
medical-
invisible costs. And
Yeah.
and because the insurance company pays, the insured, us, we don't look at the bill or we essentially don't care what the hospital's charging because that's not what we're paying anyways. And then if and when we do get the bill where the hospital says it's $65,000 for this thing, but your portion is $2,000, the human nature in us is like, oh, well, all right, I'll cough up $2,000 because that's way better than 65,000. All right, well, what if we kicked insurance out of there? What would that
Yeah.
65,000 all of a sudden turn
It's
into?
basically like Kohl's saying everything's on sale here, but
Yes.
it's already cheap.
Right.
They just mark up the price to make it look lower. No offense, Kohl's.
Shots fired.
Target does that too.
Yeah, screw Target. Okay, Kohl's isn't great. They did some some weird stuff around June of last year as well, as I recall. Ooh. But all that said, this is a big problem for us people in the Midwest and middle America here who are just trying to make it happen. And I believe medical bills are the number one reason people go bankrupt.
Medical debt.
Medical debt. Yeah. And it's just, sure, you don't pay interest on it. You can stretch it out in some cases, but what are we really paying for? You know, and to your guys' point, let's get insurance out of it and let's actually have some competition. You know, if you're a good doctor, you get paid more then. If you're a bad doctor, you don't.
I hate government intervention for anything, but there's got to be something like your son's x-ray where the x-ray is $50. Having the x-ray tech look at it. All right. Now we're talking
so when
some
I was
experience
like 24,
and a skill.
Yeah.
But the x-ray machine is already paid off.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
you know, multiple times over with the amount that they've been charging. It's basically a communal x-ray machine, right? I mean, think about how many people in I'll edit that out. How many people in your local community go on an average basis to get an x-ray?
Yeah.
So the community owns the x-ray machine.
True.
How about that?
True.
You know, and you're just paying for the services of the tech to take the photo and to assess the damage. But
the tech can't even tell you what they actually see. That has to be the doctor.
Yeah.
So that's so goofy to me too. I feel like there's so much crossover.
They're the ones who read the x-ray though, right? And then they tell the doctor.
The doctor.
Because if you look at your bill, the doctor and the x-ray tech. Anyways,
I always end up getting the x-ray tech to tell me what they see. Anyways, they're like, well, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but yeah, he's fine. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Not supposed to tell you, but your son does not have a battery in his stomach.
Yeah. It's like, it would have lit
but
up.
we still need to bring the specialist down here so they can charge you for him too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So I don't know. I mean, it's not a great system. And the fact is we've got the worst of both worlds. It's like a fake competition that is going on between like maybe 4 different medical companies or medical insurance companies. And then you've got a ton of things that are subsidized through Obamacare. If you're poor and you have to pay for medical debt, it usually involves having to know how to jump through the right hoops. Because I remember when I was just starting out, I was like 22, 23, I had to go to the ER. And I remember asking the doctor, like, how much is this going to cost? Because I don't want to get the MRI if I have to pay more for it.
Right.
You know, and they're like, well, we don't know. We just know we can't let you leave here unless you get it. I didn't know. I wasn't smart enough to know I could probably just get up and leave.
You can get up and walk out.
And they wouldn't do anything. I mean, but anyways, I had to look at a program because I couldn't afford the $5,000 bill they charged me at that time. Had to look into like some program they had through the local Catholic church that was associated with the hospital to basically get it wiped out. I didn't have to pay anything, but I had to jump through hoops, send in my W-2 from the year before to show I was broke.
You know? And they don't make that an easy path for you to navigate either.
And I know most people aren't eligible or, you know, most people aren't able to do it either. So,
right.
All that said.
Yeah, medical industry sucks. So I was listening to Adam Carolla earlier this week.
Stay away from them, you know, if you can.
Yeah, if you can.
Be healthy people.
I was listening to Adam Carolla earlier this week, and for a long time, he's had a bit where he talks about words being too close to each other is a pet peeve of his.
Physically?
In spelling and in meaning. So one of his best examples is the push and the pull.
Oh, sure.
You're going to leave a coffee shop or a restaurant, and you got the push and the pull. And both with the PUs.
I only have time to look at the first 2 letters before I touch this door and determine.
Well, really, because they mean drastically different things. And then you got the restaurant.
You got the push with the handle too.
You're then you got the restaurant that doesn't put the things on the right side. Right. So it'll say push, but like you said, it's the D-shaped handle on the door that would normally be there for a pull. And so his deal is, you know what? It needs to be push and yank. That's what it needs to be. Then you see the first letter and you know this is the push side or this is the yank side. Well,
I mean, in some cities, you don't want to see what people are doing on the yank side.
So I don't know if you guys have seen this show. I Think You Should Leave.
Yeah, definitely.
You've never seen it, Bustin?
I don't think so.
Dude, you're missing out. You've
probably seen clips if you've been on any sort of social media.
Okay.
What's the guy's name? Tim
Robbins? Is it Tim Robbins? No, I'll look it up. That's the guy from Shawshank.
Anyways, it's an over-the-top show. You've probably, I think, one of
Tim
the most
Robinson,
famous.
maybe?
That sounds more familiar. You may have seen one of the clips where he's going through a drive-through, and he's like, "Hi, I'd like to pay for the person behind me."
Oh, this, yeah.
And then
I've seen
he's
that.
like, "Quick, please let me through. I'm doing something. I'm trying to do something."
Yeah, it's Tim Robinson. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I've seen that.
One of the
Such a goofy guy.
one of the very first bits I've seen that guy do. He's like in a job interview in a coffee shop, and he's like, "Yeah, thanks for meeting me."
That's
you know,
episode
and
1, I think.
I
Yeah.
think it's the very first episode. Yeah. And so he goes to get up to leave, and the guy who interviewed him is still sitting there. But Tim gets up to go leave, and he goes to pull on the door, and it's got the handle, but it's a push, and he grabs the handle to pull, and it doesn't budge. It just hits the door frame because you're supposed to push. And he looks back at the guy who just got done interviewing him, and the guy goes, "I think you're supposed to push." And he goes, "No, I was actually here yesterday. It goes both ways." And so he continues to just pull, and then he's kind of looking back at the guy still while he's like sweating, and at one point he starts drooling, and there's like, popping off the door. The door stop falls off. The hinges are starting to pop, and eventually he pulls so hard that the door actually does open, but it's all busted up. And he looks back at the guy, and he's like, "See."
My
then
favorite
he
part of
leaves.
that show is the energy he has. Stop, go.
Yeah.
That same energy. They get actors that are like 60 years old that have the same energy in a character bit. So they're like this grandma who's like, "Have you seen my pictures? Look at me." I can't
Right.
remember it, but it's good. It's a good show.
So I couldn't help but wonder if that is a stolen bit from Adam, because he has been on this push-pull thing for a long time.
I honestly do think some of his stuff's stolen, but the dude's pretty funny in his
He's
own
fantastic.
right.
You know what? He's my favorite guy out there. Just today I saw he's producing a show on the Daily Wire, a cartoon. He plays the voice of a shop teacher. I thought good for him for getting involved. I'm looking forward to that show.
On like PragerU stuff, and
He's been on
that as
PragerU
well.
stuff, but this is Daily Wire. This is a cartoon.
Well, he's got a good voice for a cartoon shop teacher. I think that just
He's got
kind
a
of fits.
great voice, and it fits his
The
personality because he
whiny,
grew
yeah.
up
Today
being a
we're making
framer.
birdhouses.
He grew up being a framer, and working digging
The push
ditches.
and the pull, it's
Yeah,
pretty much the same.
and then he actually plays the voice of Death in Family Guy,
Yeah,
the Grim Reaper.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
never connected that.
That's Adam Carolla.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. Love that guy. All right, let's move on to On This Day in History, April 19th.
This day in history.
April 19th was a big day. I had a hard time whittling through this stuff, so you're going to have to bear with me here. 1775, Paul Revere, William Dawes, and Samuel Prescott are captured by British troops riding from Lexington to Concord. Prescott escapes to warn Concord, as does Dawes, who acts as a decoy. I didn't know
so
that there
Revere
was...
didn't get free. I mean, did we get a lie from our history teachers?
No, I just think that there was 3 guys that... What I take from that is there's 3 guys that went out.
No.
Samuel...
Always have your homies with you.
Yep. All right, you guys might like this one. English naturalist, origin of the species, who convinced the theory of evolution by natural selection, dies of heart failure at 73.
I don't know
Do
if
we,
that's...
do we know who that is?
Oh, Charles Darwin.
Charles Darwin. Published the theory of evolution through natural selection in his book on the origins of species in 1859. The theory was supported with compelling evidence from his journeys around the world. By the 1870s, the scientific community and much of the general public had accepted Darwin's theory of evolution as a fact, but no matter how much studying he did, it wasn't enough to evolve away from heart disease.
Could we potentially link him to the AIDS epidemic, because he really tried to humanize monkeys, and apparently AIDS started from a monkey. I feel like we can blame him for more than what we're blaming for him.
I don't know if
Maybe.
the scientific
I wonder how much-
experiments went that far.
Yeah, I wonder how much of
I
that
don't
was
know,
taken
man.
out of context.
Yeah.
Because we have similar DNA, but I don't know. I've never read the book.
I find it ironic that one of the best known atheists nowadays is Richard Dawkins. Is it Dawkins, right? Dawkins, Darwin. It's always mixed up in my brain.
Those words are too close together.
The pull and the push.
All right, 1927, actress Mae West found guilty of obscenity and corrupting the morals of youth in a New York stage play entitled Sex. She is sentenced to 10 days in prison and fined $500.
What year was this?
1927.
Oh.
The resulting publicity launches her Hollywood career. So basically, she's like the earliest known OF girl. As well as performing, she turned to writing and in 1926 began to write, produce, and star in her own plays on Broadway. In the first of these, Sex, in 1926, her performance as a prostitute created a sensation. It ran for several weeks before the Guardians of Morality in New York put a stop to it. Garnish posters proclaiming sex with Mae West caused outrage among key religious and political figures as well as many members of the public. After several complaints, she was arrested and the police closed the show. She went on to write and star in another show, The Pleasure Man, that dealt with homosexuality, but which ran for only one performance before West was, again, arrested for obscenity. This time, a jury could not agree on her guilt. Other Mae West plays were panned by critics, but did well at the box office, drawing the attention of Hollywood executives. Despite being 38 years old, an age when most actresses start to wind down their careers, she was offered a contract by Paramount worth $5,000 a week, which is equivalent. That's equivalent to $80,000 today. Can you imagine making $80,000 a week?
Can't imagine making $5,000 a week.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, $5,000 a week.
Please like and subscribe to this podcast.
Please.
Crucially for West, it was agreed that she could rewrite lines in the films, which would allow her to set the tone for her persona. I included these lines because I like them. Say what you will about her and whatever culture she may have created, but some of these are pretty clever. So in her first movie, Night After Night, a hat check girl says to her, "Goodness, what beautiful diamonds." To which West responds, "Goodness had nothing to do with it, dearie." Mae later starred with Cary Grant in his first movie called She Done Him Wrong in 1933, which was nominated for Best Picture. The film was a box office hit and has said to have saved Paramount from bankruptcy. It grossed over $2 million, the equivalent of $140 million today. In 1967, the Beatles asked permission to use a picture of West on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club band album cover. The actress joked, "What would I be doing in a Lonely Hearts Club?" But she agreed to the request anyways. Certainly, she was not short of money when the management at her apartment building discriminated against William Jones, her African-American boxer boyfriend, by barring his entry. West simply solved the problem by buying the building. Gangster move.
That's power.
Real quick, some of her most famous lines include, "There are no good girls gone wrong, just bad girls found out." I generally avoid temptation unless I can't resist it. When I'm good, I'm very good, but when I'm bad, I'm better. Good girls go to heaven, bad girls go everywhere. I used to be Snow White, but I drifted. Mae West suffered a stroke in August of 1980 and later died in November at 87 years of age. The moral of the Mae West story? Sex will always sell.
Oh. Unless it's banned, then the play is, off Broadway for a while.
1933, FDR announces U.S. will leave gold standard. President Roosevelt issued a proclamation that formally suspended the gold standard. The proclamation prohibited exports of gold and prohibited the Treasury and financial institutions from converting currency and deposits into gold coins and ingots. The actions halted gold outflows. So you can thank anyone involved with removing the gold standard as the sole action that resulted in the domino effect of the low wages and rapid inflation we have today.
It really shocks me. Doesn't shock me, but it's just amazing to see how badly the government, even back into 1933, you mentioned here, they wanted to get rid of that accountability of how they were spending money. I mean, that's what the gold standard did, is it forced accountability and provided the people a safety net, if you will. And here we are.
Because they used to have to get votes for any government action that would. Did we talk about this?
We did. I think it was like 1913 or something that stopped. So this was about 20 years after that. But it's been
it's a further progression of the lack of accountability.
And income tax didn't even exist until the early 1900s, which is just a dream.
I think you're right.
I wish we were back then.
Yep.
In some ways, the early death, not probably a great thing, but.
Well, moving on to something much more fun, drugs. In 1943, Bicycle Day. Anybody know what Bicycle Day is? Huh? Going once, going twice?
Sounds kinky.
Bicycle Day, Swiss chemist Dr. Albert Hofmann deliberately takes LSD for the first time. Albert Hofmann was a Swiss chemist that is best known for accidentally synthesizing a substance known as acid, or LSD.
Thanks.
He first synthesized the substance in 1938, but left it aside for 5 years. Upon examining it again in 1943, Hofmann accidentally absorbed a small amount of LSD through his fingertips. He described the first acid trip in human history as follows, and I quote, "Affected by a remarkable restlessness combined with a slight dizziness. At home, I lay down and sank into a not unpleasant, intoxicated-like condition, characterized by an extremely stimulated imagination. In a dreamlike state, with eyes closed, I found the daylight to be unpleasantly glaring. I perceived an uninterrupted stream of fantastic pictures, extraordinary shapes with intense kaleidoscopic play of colors. After some 2 hours, this condition faded away. 3 days later, not long at all, Hofmann conducted the first intentional acid trip. He reported that this experience was much less pleasant, with people and his surroundings morphing into demonic-like creatures."
Ooh. Whoopsie.
Kind of ironic that it didn't happen on 420, don't you think? You just missed it by a day.
A little bit, yeah. Hey, did miss it by a day, April 19th. That's right. Good call. 1963, Johnny Cash releases... song title.
Oh, that one with the fire?
There you go.
Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire.
There you go.
Sorry, Johnny.
Releases single Ring of Fire, written by his future wife, June Carter. Here's an interesting one. 1971, Charles Manson sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Sharon Tate, who was an actress and model who was 8.5 months pregnant with Manson's child when murdered.
I never knew that.
That's wild. Manson's followers committed a series of 9 murders at 4 locations over a period of 5 weeks in the summer of 1969. The crimes captivated the public due to their gruesome nature and the seemingly random and senseless violence they entailed. Manson was not physically present at the scenes of the murders, but was nonetheless convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder due to the control and influence he exerted over his followers.
I had to look him up because I was not sure if he has, kicked the bucket yet. He has, thankfully.
He did.
2017. I didn't know he had a swastika
tattooed on his forehead.
He got that in prison, though, I think.
Yeah. What a good guy.
Among the most infamous crimes was the murder of actress Sharon Tate and 4 others at her home. Manson convinced his followers that these murders would help ignite an apocalyptic race war, which he termed Helter Skelter, after the Beatles' song of the same name. Manson served out his life sentence at California State Prison and died in 2017.
I always thought it was a chicken or the egg thing, the Helter Skelter. I didn't know that he named it after the Beatles song. So,
yeah, so it kind of sucks for the Beatles because they had their stuff tainted by this.
Not only that,
fella.
they had Guns N' Roses cover it later, and it was worse than Charles Manson
Ooh.
and his crew.
Which cover was worse?
Funny.
Not a big GNR fan. Sorry, guys.
1982, Sally Ride is named the first American woman in space because even the astronauts deserve a good home-cooked meal. Come on, I'm trying here. Rough crowd. I thought that was a good one. All right.
How dare you?
Here's what's amazing. Again, these are all April 19th. So remember this, especially as we get to the news, because there is through the years, there's a thing for April 19th. So, Bustin, you'll probably have something to say to this one. 1993, after a 51-day siege by the FBI, 76 Branch Davidians die in a fire near Waco, Texas. This included 25 children and David Koresh, the leader of the Branch Davidians. 25 kids murdered by the U.S. government.
ATF.
Who cares what letters you put in front of it?
All these alphabet agencies.
That's right.
It's a very common culty date we got here on April 19th.
Yeah. Well, wait till I get to this one. This one was eye-opening for me. 1994, Rodney King, the OG George Floyd, was awarded $3.8 million on April 19th in compensation by the Los Angeles County for his police beating. In the original George Floyd event, 4 white police officers of the Los Angeles Police Department were acquitted over charges they used excessive force when arresting Rodney King, then a 25-year-old African-American who had led police on a high-speed chase. The video of King being violently beaten by officers during his arrest was widely viewed in America and around the world after a nearby civilian filmed the events and gave it to a local TV station. For 6 days straight, violence, looting, assault, and murder took over the city. A wicked assault on a truck driver, Reginald Kenny, was broadcast live by news helicopters. The riots killed 63 people and caused over $1 billion in damages. That's social justice for you, huh? 63 innocent people dead.
Wow.
The United States Army, the U.S. Marine Corps, the California National Guard, and a number of other state and federal agencies were sent to L.A. via orders of President George H.W. Bush to put a stop to the riots.
Well, you know, everything starts in California and moves over to the Midwest.
So not all the 63 dead were
It took a few
innocent,
years.
though. I think somewhere in the 20s of them were shot by police. So obviously in the process of committing some violent crime.
Well, people that died that didn't
people that died
need
wouldn't
to,
have probably
right.
died.
This is unrelated to
I think some
initial...
of them took the opportunity of the panic and uproar.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
arson to,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Rodney King riots are where we get the Koreans on rooftops.
Yep. That I remember that.
Yep. So, Bustin, I think I overheard you said you were curious of Rodney King's criminal history, right? Oh, I'm glad.
Did I say that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. How could you ever assume he had one? But I'm glad you asked.
One, dude? Pretty racist of you.
Here's what I found.
I would never.
Hang tight. July of 1987, and keep in mind he was paid out $3.8 million in '94. Okay, so here's his criminal history. July of '87, King beat his wife while she was sleeping, dragged her outside, beat her again. He received probation and was suggested to go to, and was required to go to therapy. He never went to therapy.
Don't say.
He never went to therapy.
Yeah, what a punishment. Like, oh yeah, you got to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going.
Right.
You clearly need to talk this out with somebody.
2 years later, November of '89, King threatened a store clerk with a tire iron in a robbery, fleeing the store with $200. He received 2 years in prison. Almost to the day, March of '91, 2 years later, King was seen speeding on the 210 freeway and led police on a chase at speeds of up to 115 miles an hour. He refused to comply, appeared to charge one of the officers. He was beaten and arrested. He was charged with felony evading, but the charges were later dropped. May of '91. Like 2 months later.
Wait, so he got beat this wasn't the first beating he took when he got paid out in 94. You said in 90
in
or something?
91, March of 91.
That's when the beating happened.
So I think March
he got
of
paid
91.
in 94. I see.
The riots were after the cops were acquitted. People reacted
Right, people
to that.
rioted because they felt like the officers
that's
should have been
connecting the
charged.
dots.
You know what?
Which is why I think that Derek Chauvin was guilty, because it was basically the Minneapolis city government saying, I don't want to say that he's not guilty.
Right.
And that, I mean, it's not a fair trial. You look at what happened there, and they literally had barbed wire fences outside the city court building. People
they
protesting.
burned a police station down.
They allowed that to
And a lot
happen.
of local businesses too. A lot of
Unbelievable.
black-owned.
Yeah.
Sorry,
local
we're getting off the
businesses.
topic of the original OG.
Well, so again,
George Floyd.
continuing with his criminal history, May of 91. March of 91 to May of 91. I mean, this guy can't stay out of trouble for 6 flipping months.
Little troublemaker.
King was pulled over for excessively tinted windows. He was found
How
to be...
dare he?
Well, and so fine, whatever. I
know.
get the whole tinted window thing. It's kind of a BS
It's what's
deal.
going on underneath the tint.
Right. Well, so here's what's funny. Throw the tinted windows out. Who cares? He was found to be driving without a license, and his vehicle registration had expired. Despite that, he was still, again, not charged. Again, same month, in May of 91, King picked up a trans prostitute in Hollywood that was under surveillance by LAPD. When the prostitute spotted the officers, King sped away, almost hitting one of them. No charges were filed.
This guy
What
had
the
the
heck?
longest. The thing that is crazy to me is that he went to jail for the tire iron thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, you stole some money. You stole $200 from a store.
Right.
2 years in jail. You beat your wife senseless. Maybe you should talk to a therapist. That doesn't seem like an
June
equal.
of 92, King's second wife reported he had hit her and she feared for her life. King was arrested, but she later declined to press charges. That was June of 92. July of 92. A month later, King was arrested at 1:40 in the morning for drunk driving. No charges were filed.
That's
think-
egregious.
This is unbelievable. Prosecutors since the 90s have not been prosecuting, at least not prosecuting the right people.
The white privilege on this guy.
Seriously. Underrated comment for sure. August of 1993, King crashed into a wall near a downtown LA nightclub with a blood alcohol level of 0.19. King was charged with violating his parole and sent to a treatment center for 60 days, also being convicted for the DUI. May of 95, King was arrested for a DUI on a trip to Pennsylvania. He was tried and acquitted. July of
He's
90
a millionaire now. you know?
Seriously, yeah. July of 95, King was arguing with his wife while driving. He pulled off the freeway and ordered her out. However, when she started to get out, King sped off, leaving her on the highway with a bruised arm. Charged with assault with a deadly weapon, the car, reckless driving, spousal abuse, and hit and run, only found guilty of the hit and run driving. March of 1999, King allegedly injured the 16-year-old girl that he fathered out of wedlock when he was 17 years old, as well as the girl's mother. He was arrested, but claimed it was simply a, quote, family misunderstanding. September of 2001, King was arrested for indecent exposure and the use of the drug PCP. King was later found dead in 2012, drowned in his swimming pool at his home in California at the age of 47, with alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, and PCP found in his system.
Doesn't contribute to a backstroke, is what you're saying. I thought you'd fly across the pool.
Died of a backstroke.
You're assuming he could swim in the first place.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Hey, lots of people can't swim, man.
I mean, maybe he was in the shallow end. You never know.
Yeah. Again.
Certainly his brain was in the shallow end most of his life.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't believe that. $1 billion in damages and 63 people dead who didn't have to die because of this guy.
Well, it's really a shock
can we
that
pick
he...
a virtuous guy to riot for? How about that?
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm waiting for one.
Julian
we might have found one
Assange?
today.
Anybody want to go out for Julian Assange? What about Edward Snowden?
Yeah, no kidding. And
Logic isn't popular with Americans anymore. I think
Not at
that's
all.
the thing. We don't even know what a hero was if he slapped us across the face.
Where did the video get posted back then? It's not like they had social media.
It was. I read it was filmed by a local and then given to a TV station. So they played it on the news,
cut for time, out of context, most likely. Not necessarily defending how the cops went about that, but you look at the history of his life, and I'm amazed he didn't kill more people.
You know what? I haven't seen the video, so maybe I shouldn't comment. But I live on a busy street, and the way some people come flying down my street, I wouldn't mind seeing them get beat. Just saying,
Got kids out there.
Let's go back to our dick in a truck.
Yeah, this is how people get killed. You don't get to fly 150 miles an hour on a police chase and put the general public's lives in danger without receiving a little bit of a spanking.
Well, and the thing is cops are people. They have emotions. I've done a ride along before. I mean, these people get frustrated, specifically when they have to chase down a suspect. And, even if you watch the body cam footage of George Floyd, they're not polite.
Right.
Their customer service is not really there. They're swearing at him to begin with.
That's not their job.
Exactly. And not that is their job. It's not their job, but these cops have to deal with some of the most stressful situations, in society, and they're on edge all the time.
Right. And
they're overworked. And now, we're in a situation where people aren't going into being police officers. It's not a desirable job. It doesn't pay particularly well, I don't think, either. So the honor of it is not there to kind of make up for that lack of pay. And then you add in the fact that, they're understaffed and underqualified. It's just a more dangerous world for us all, unfortunately.
Yeah. This is why I like the old school mafia guys, because they made their community better. If you know the history of the mafia, they weren't always involved in drugs.
The drugs came quietly.
And they killed the people who were not jiving. They had some code to things. They had respect. They had a nice hierarchy, and you know what? When
they had Joe Pesci.
When the cops busted them, they didn't sit there and put up a fight. They gave up. You got me. Cool. You got me. Hey, let's see what kind of evidence you got on me.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Don't make myself guilty in the meantime.
Exactly. Yep. And there was some respect there. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Heat.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Great movie. At some point, now I know they have a gunfight in the end, which kind of counteracts what I'm saying, but it didn't work out that way in the beginning of the movie. What is it? Not Joe Pesci, but De Niro, and
I know. Oh gosh, let's look him up.
Who's the guy that always talks the same in every single movie he's in?
No, yeah,
Al
Pacino.
Hey, yep. It's me, Al.
I think Pacino.
I like my coffee, huh?
Speaking of being in Heat, both of those actors, I think, had a baby recently, and they're both in their 80s.
Gosh.
I think Pacino's like 85 or something, and De Niro's like 83.
I did hear De Niro had a baby, yeah.
It's disgusting.
But there's a scene in the movie where, they kind of figure out who's who. He's been... Al Pacino's been tracking De Niro's character for a while, but doesn't exactly know who he is. And they literally go out. He's like, "Hey, you want to meet me for coffee?"
Yeah, that's it.
And they go and meet, and they have a conversation, and it's two honorable men going, "Hey, my job is to kill a guy like you," and then the other guy's like, "Yeah, my job is to not get killed by you, and if you get in my way, I'm gonna kill you." "Oh, well, you better believe I'm gonna kill you if you get in my way." "All right, so it's basically decided then, right? I'm gonna kill you if you get in my way, and you're gonna kill me if I get in your way." Yeah.
It's a gentleman's agreement.
It's a gentleman's agreement. It's an honorable deal. And gangsters don't roll like that anymore.
Also quite possible
they trip over their sagging pants.
Fair enough. But it's also quite possible that this is a romanticized Hollywood fantasy of how things actually win with the mafia and whatnot.
Maybe.
But I hear what you're saying. I mean,
I'll live in the romantic
It's a perverted
element.
way of maybe looking at it, but yeah, I mean, there was more of a community or more honor in what you were doing and more of a business element to it, certainly, than
Well, they didn't the mafia.
I mean, I do love the crime movies, the Goodfellas.
They didn't destroy their communities. And in fact,
that's a good
Tim
point.
Pool actually makes this point. They protected their communities. So
And they were proud of their communities.
And they were proud
Here's
of
the
it.
other thing, though.
So they might come in and say, hey, we want a little kickback from your store. But you know what? You had the security of having the mafia be your brothers. They had your back. You had somebody come in and rob you. All you had to do was tell, Big Joe, this kid down the block came in and held me up at gunpoint and robbed. Hey, don't worry.
I'll take care of him.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Yeah, well, I think that goes back to everybody needs to know their origin story at some level. That's like a deep question of where do I come from? Who do I belong to? And that's one of the problems that we have in the United States, especially if you don't have a good father in your life. You're not raised with any sort of identity. No one's giving you that identity or that confidence to know who you are. So you're out there trying to figure it out.
Right.
Like you're running blind. And in that example, you got a very homogenous group of people like Italians or something of that sort. And they're going to protect their own. They want to have honor in their community. They want their name to be well known. They're a family-based community, and we're just so segregated in our identities, and we're mixed. Like I don't even know who all my ancestors are, what all countries I belong to. I'm an American, but a lot of people in America don't even have pride in being an American. So there's no unification, and we're left with this trying to find a light switch in the dark scenario.
Pretty much. Moving on, in 1995, Oklahoma City bombing. Timothy McVeigh sets off a truck bomb at Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, killing 168 people, including 19 children, and injuring 500.
This was the same day as Waco?
Yep. In fact, they're related because Timothy McVeigh did this essentially out of revenge for Waco. Timothy was a decorated war veteran and described as the boy next door. He saw the bombing as retribution for the federal government's actions in the 1993, 2 years prior, Waco siege, in which 86 people, many of whom were children, had died, and the 1992 Ruby Ridge incident. The American foreign policy, more generally, which he saw as tyrannical, was included in his retribution. The bombing was the deadliest terrorist attack on U.S. soil until 9/11.
That ties in my mind.
That'll tie in the news later today because again,
goodness.
This is all April 19th. So we have another event that took place. Stay tuned because we'll talk about it in the news segment. But another crazy story took place today. And then we close with a modern classic. In 2022, U.S. inflation hits 8.5%, the highest since 1981, driven by a rise in gas prices, rent, and food. Comments
Terrible.
other than...
This sounds too familiar.
You have like a fart noise or something there? Come on.
About as close as we're going to get. Anyways, that was On This Day in History.
This day in history.
April 19th was rough, man.
Infamous day.
That's why everyone
Infamous.
smokes pot the day after.
Ooh, good reminder. 420 tomorrow, boys, and on a Saturday. If that's your thing,
I don't celebrate.
do it to it. All right, we got some, hopefully some funny things that we're going to tackle here on Midwest Nonsense. The Midwest ain't big enough for all this nonsense. So, in my opinion, language has become so degraded that out of it, a new language has formed. I present to you Gen Z words and phrases. These idiotic idioms are not only ridiculous, but they aid in driving a complete divide between not only an entire generation and reality, but deprives the young from communication with their wiser elders. And I think Ben's got a clip to demonstrate exactly what we might be talking about here.
Yeah, this is just a generational clip to just kind of describe the lay of the land for how generations look today in 2024 by one of my favorite comedians, Tim Dillon, being interviewed on another podcast. And it's, spoken in such a matter-of-fact way. I hope you boys enjoy this. So I'm going to pull this up. Hope this thing works. But very funny stuff here. Let's take a look.
Sure. I think it's podcasting to me. The fun of podcasting is being unfiltered, free, and just having fun.
What's your assessment of these sort of different generations? We have these Gen Zs, millennials, and we have the boomers. What's your read on these?
Well, we've given up on the children. The future is not the children. The children are no longer the future. The future is AI. The future is robotics. We're very clear on that. We don't even talk about the children anymore. We talk mainly about AI. No one's even said anything about the children in months, years, really. We've given up on the children. They're dead-eyed little monsters. They're running around killing each other. We can't deal with it. It's very traumatic. I've even stopped thinking about what they're doing because it's crazy. I'm more excited about AI than the children, just like anyone else. Who's reviving the economy of San Francisco? The children? No, AI. So AI is next. We don't know what we're going to do with the children. Build prisons. That's what I say for children. They're crazy. They're being raised by algorithms. They're all on fentanyl. They're all on drugs. We're all running around trying to kill each other and record it. There was a case in Phoenix, Arizona. These rich white kids running around, beating up kids at random, filming it and putting it on TikTok. No motive, nothing. Just for clout, just for things. Psych. And they killed a kid. And finally, now, because they're all white, of course, the cops didn't do anything for a year. And they were like, well, just a couple of kids having fun killing the other kids. This is how people grow up. So this Gilbert, Arizona Police Department does nothing about the whole thing. Finally, they just arrested these kids because they killed somebody. But this is not only there. I mean, it's kind of an epidemic where, like, all over the place, you see, like, young people, unfortunately, these crazy acts of violence that are now being uploaded for clout. People going, look at what I did. And what they did was assault someone or kill someone. This is a real problem. So we have to deal with the kids in some way, jail them, I don't know what to do with them. But AI is big, robotics is big. That's what is next. The boomers, I have a book coming out about them. I love the boomers. They're a selfish generation of people. The state of the boomers, these paranoid people who refuse to leave their McMansions. They will not leave. They will not retire. They lord around their houses. They diminish their children. They say, I can't believe you don't own something like this. They like holding these houses over their kids' heads. They retire to bigger houses. They have thousands and thousands of square feet. They're very sick people. They refuse to give up their jobs. They're dying in the Senate. They're collapsing in Congress. They will not leave. They will not cede any of their power. They're emotional terrorists. And I grew up with them. They're very interesting people. They've proven the lie of the 60s. These hippies that everybody thought were like progressive, they're actually not. They were always just selfish drug addicts. They never cared about anything they purported to care about. They just wanted to get high and roll around in the mud. And then as soon as the drugs changed from, acid to money, they, became this very materialistic, soulless group of people. But the funniest generation that has ever lived, nobody's funnier. Nobody's funnier because to be funny, like we talked about, you kind of have to just not care about anything. And there's no generation of people that have cared less about the future of this planet, about their children, about anything than the boomers. They're all little islands and they all are about themselves forever and ever. And there's something actually refreshing about that, funny. And they're holding the planet hostage. They won't die. They won't leave. I've suggested they be forcibly evicted from their homes and committed to mental institutions. Legally, we have some problems. That's not easy to do. I've spoken to some lawyers. There are problems doing that. And then the millennials were this very shitty generation of pin a medal on me, pin a ribbon on me, I'm right. I went to the right college. I got the right internship. I believe the right things. I tweeted the right thing. I did the right thing. I have all the right beliefs. I have the good politics. I have this. Shower me with, tell me I'm good, because my boomer parents, they don't care about me, but you tell me I'm good. The world needs to fill the void that exists inside of me. And these millennials are these kind of ambitious people that want to constantly be patted on the back and told how great they are. So they're kind of shapeshifters that conform to any popular sentiment. They crowdsource all of their opinions. They just want, whereas the boomers just kind of didn't care about anyone or anything. You have the millennials who are kind of like more like, I am good and you tell me that I'm good, because they're good to be told to be good. Their politics are aesthetic. They want everyone to look at them and to tell them how great they are. And then the Zoomers are the younger generation after the millennials. They seem to be, somewhat like they're self-starters. They're very skeptical of institutions. They're a little more cynical. That's some of their positive qualities, that they're more independent-minded. The negative qualities are the aforementioned murder and the filming of the murders and the killings and the drugs and the fentanyl vapes and
Love this guy.
all of that. That seems to be less.
The fentanyl vapes.
I mean, we need a draft, to be honest. Now that I'm kind of older and fat, now we need a draft. Young people should probably just go into the military. I know that's going to be a controversial thing to say, but if they're just going to do fentanyl and attack each other in malls and put it on TikTok, they can go die in the Ukraine so that Boeing can make some money. Are we still on YouTube?
Okay, so that's basically the clip. I want to just get your guys' thoughts on his generational breakdown there.
I agree.
He ain't wrong.
He's not wrong.
The connection I feel like he needs to make is the boomers birthed and raised the millennials.
They did, but
So for all of his gripes about the millennials, they
he
are
is a
a
millennial.
result of the boomers. So how do you square
to
that
a
away?
point, but I mean, every generation rebels against their parents.
Well, and this goes on to my theory that I'm still I'm getting get names, I'm going to get dates, I'm going to have a timeline, but the theory that I have is that essentially the normalization of giving your children up to the state between basically 4 years of age and 18 years of age, they spend 5 days a week, 7 to 8 hours a day under the care of the state. And when they're not under the care of the state, parents are subsidizing parenthood out to somebody else. They're outsourcing that. And that's why we have a generation and future generations that don't know how to handle their emotions because they were actually abandoned. Maybe not by adults, because they always had someone around them, but that person was being paid to be around them. There's got to be something that happens subconsciously when you're abandoned by your biological parents. And I think that's the theory I'm working on. So I'll deliver it when I'm done and I'm ready.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And to put that into perspective even a step further, my son is growing up in a split household. He lives with his mom half the week. He lives with me half the week. And so in total, I have him 70-ish hours a week, including the hours that he's sleeping. Pretty similar for his mom. And he's at school because we both work full time. Mm-hmm. He's at preschool 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. More than half of the time that I have him is the amount of time that he spends in school being raised by other teachers, being around kids. And I'm scared for this next generation. I'm scared for my kid, not because I can't protect him, because I can, but only when I'm with him. He's being raised by other people
and
during
that's
that
part
time.
of
He's around these other kids, and as he gets older, it's going to get even worse. Like the example he just gave, this crowd mentality, these kids beating up on random other kids,
right?
Just for sport. They're making a game out of it.
And before we get too dark here, let me bring it back to this.
Can't help it.
Real quick,
Okay.
I just want to highlight, that is not your fault. So this is part of my theory.
But that's also why it's important to me.
And that's how I wanna-
we've allowed a culture to be created in a way that it's normal for parents to separate at such an extremely young age, and for an extremely long amount of time, we've allowed it to become normal that you separate from your parents, and that should not be. You go back far enough. If your dad was a shoemaker, guess what you did? You learned the business of making and the craft of making shoes at a young age. You were around your parents. You were around the community. Now everything is separate, and the state decides what to put in your child's mind. And anyways,
and that's why we refuse to send him to public school. We're very selective.
Good for you.
The one piece of control I have over that time that he's away from me is going to be, what type of school he's at, what caliber of teachers these are. And I look at the friends and I look at other parents, and, we have birthday parties. We invite the other students or whatever. So I get to meet their parents too and be a judge of that. But I mean, they're not all perfect, of course, but better than it could be.
All right. So let's tune us up, Ben.
Part of this is, you guys are getting at a big element here, which is the lack of freedom you have over everything in your life. And I thought it was funny how he was ripping the boomers for not giving up their houses. And
it's true.
I wanted to look up the statistics, because really one of the things that we're seeing with how expensive homes are certainly the inflation, which could be caused by the boomers in Congress. But beyond that, you're looking at an inventory that's really low. And I looked at the recent stats. This goes back to, let's just see, I think it was like 2019. So this has probably changed even since. But the people who owned homes that were 55 and older made up 54% of total home ownership. So when you look at the patterns in the past, those people who owned the most, the typical age range that had the highest home ownership used to be like age 45 to 54 when we looked at it in 2009, but it just shifted down to the next bracket, meaning that 55 to 64 was now the highest home ownership age bracket. So really, we're not seeing homes being passed on correctly. If you look at people, closer to our age range in their early 30s, only of the total home ownership in the United States, we only make up 5.9% of that.
Wow.
But I will say,
when daddy can afford a second home,
right,
he rents it out instead of figuring out a way for his kid to have it. And I guess I can't blame him, because who gives a rip about a kid you didn't raise? The state did. And when you look at your kid and you go, I don't even recognize you because A, I wasn't around for your upbringing, and B, I don't recognize your personality because the state and your peers gave it to you. I suppose I can't necessarily blame the boomers for putting us in that situation.
Well, and here's another thing that it gets to this point even more so. So I'm looking at a graphic here I can share with you guys or put it in the show notes, but it is the total assets that are generationally owned. So 156 trillion in U.S. assets. It's really quite shocking, because I don't know if you guys know this, but millennials, we are the biggest generation by population. So the most, we surpass boomers. We have the largest population.
COVID probably helped with that.
Probably. You're probably right.
The vaccine is still helping.
Anybody born during COVID's not a millennial.
No, I'm talking
he's
about
saying
deaths.
killing off people.
I see.
Old age and whatnot.
The majority still alive.
I guess to answer that question, then, when was this stat taken?
I believe this is 2022.
Okay.
And you can see
that's convenient.
So they're breaking down assets between like equities, mutual funds, pensions, real estate, private business, other assets. So obviously, like a private business, you're going to expect that boomers are going to have more of that wealth just because they've built up a business over time. But I want you guys to try to guess what percentage of this 156 trillion that's in the United States belongs to these different generations, going from, let's start with the silent generation. This goes only down to millennials.
What's the silent generation age range?
That is the generation before boomers. So think of, I don't have the date range, but think of those that are like 75, probably 80 plus. 75 to 80 and older.
So what
20%.
percentage?
Like our grandparents.
Yeah.
20%.
Is this adjusted for?
Don't overthink it.
Yeah. All right. 10%.
Yeah, 11.9%. So they own 18.6 trillion. Now, how about let's go down to the boomers. What do you think the boomers hold?
I'm guessing they are 67%.
Justin, any thoughts?
I think in the 40s.
50% of all wealth in the United States of America. 78.1 trillion. Gen X holds 29.5% of that. And millennials right now. Now, you could make the argument we're just getting started, but think about how
Gen X is after boomers.
Gen X is after boomers. It's right before millennials.
Okay.
So, think of it from late 60s.
I would still consider a Gen X. If I met a Gen Xer, I would still consider them a boomer. They're the
Think about the
cooler
people-
of the boomers.
They're the ones that were born in the 70s. Think of that mostly. That's mostly where they were born. It
But
was
see,
a smaller
I feel like
generation.
there's enough of a social gap between us
There
and
is.
Gen
Yeah,
X
there is.
that I would look at them as the same category as my boomer parents.
There are enough that we view them as elders, but we're still friends with them.
The weird thing is that
I can see that.
There's a smaller,
Yeah.
so these generations don't have equal years that they're covering. So I think the boomer years, I'll look it up. But
So what did you say? Because again,
you're
just
killing the punchline here, though. We gotta
right,
get
what's
to what do you think the millennials? It's not even a punchline, but millennials again, the highest population. What do you think we're at for this 156 trillion in U.S.
6%.
Just about 8.5%.
I mean, we already went through the
Yeah.
math. You got 11%, you got 50%, you got Gen X, which was, what did you say, 20?
We only own 5 trillion of real estate in the United States compared to 18.3 trillion for boomers. So that makes sense, but it's going to be interesting. The interesting thing to me is, will that the biggest wealth transfer in history is supposed to happen because the boomers were, the ones who were able to generate the most wealth in history.
Trickle down economics.
Does
is
it
that what we're waiting
happen?
for?
Yeah, does it happen? That's the question, because they're not selling their homes. They're not passing anything on to help. And I've even heard a report recently that the boomers are now the grandparents of kids, like our kids, and they're not actually helping out or trying to invest any time in their grandkids statistically compared to generations before them. Now, I'm not trying to just rip boomers. There's a lot of great boomers out there, but I find that really interesting. It's just, I think what Tim Dillon is saying is probably spot on cultural analysis. So, I don't know. Your thoughts?
Sounds good to me. I don't disagree with him.
I think perhaps a lot of the wealth has already been transferred. It could be why the boomers are reflecting such a high percentage, because their parents, though they may
Sacrificed
still
everything, really.
well, and their parents who transferred the wealth to them, those parents may still be alive, so that population is still alive. But now, where are they? They're in nursing homes, they're in hospice. So at that point in their life, they've already transferred the home, they've already transferred the wealth down to the boomers. So now the boomers have inherited that, and they're reflecting higher because of that.
And let's, if you guys want, I can just name off what, as we get into this conversation about Gen Z, the boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. Gen X was 1965 to 1980. Millennials, we had 1981 to 1996. And then just to tee up this Gen Z conversation, we're looking at people born between 1997 and 2012. So a 27-year-old could be Gen Z.
Gen Z.
So to put this also into perspective, my mom is a boomer, but so is her mom.
Yeah.
So that's how big of a span that generation is.
I never look at it as like years. I look at it as like attitude.
I may be off
Explain
by
that.
a couple of years.
Well, when you're dealing with somebody, if
It's a generalization. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
not everyone's going to be like their generation. We're not all shitty people, like he said.
We're not all raised under the same circumstances.
But I mean, like
But I
my
can't
neighbor's in
disagree
his,
with the
in
millennial
his
take,
50s,
you know?
so he's probably considered a boomer, but he understands way more of
Be
what's
Gen X, actually.
going on. And see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would never think of Gen X. I would think of just boomer.
They're
as
usually
being,
the forgotten ones that people.
Well, there you go. Wonder why.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I'd probably
Be more relevant, Gen X.
Gen X is just the elder millennial.
Yeah, they're the ones who got to live
suppose.
through the 90s as teenagers or as 20-somethings, I suppose. Kind of jealous of that.
He's a boomer. He's not Gen X.
Right. But
Him.
next door here.
Both of those.
As far as I know, he is in his mid to late 50s.
Yeah.
Should I throw up that Gen Alpha? The Gen Alpha kid?
No.
Yeah, that's a good way to kick off this next.
I don't even want to talk about them yet.
That's our kids. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to generalize them.
All right, here, we'll get this queued up.
Yeah, what are these kids, like 11?
Yeah, this is
Pretty
is
proud.
scary.
My son would never talk like this.
Keep him
But
off of
he's
TikTok.
also,
Stay that way.
What are your thoughts on millennials?
I mean, it's pretty fire. I wish I could go back and meet some of my ancestors.
What?
The drip wasn't as good,
What does drip mean?
like style. Yeah, like if you see me right now, you say I'm drippier.
If you want to call somebody cool, what would you say? Like,
Probably like mad lit on God or something.
what? Mad lit on God?
Yeah, or
Like,
like
G-O-D?
yeah, mad lit on God, no cap.
Mad lit on God, no cap. Nailed it. Nope.
Neither of those kids look drippy, by the way.
Man, this crap makes me feel so old. Like, I remember being around my brothers, and they'd be talking like this, and I was literally asking them,
What you say?
I've
Yeah.
had people at work that are Gen Z. I'll like slack them something, and then they'll write bet.
dude,
And
I
I'm like,
remember when
what?
that's where I was gonna go. Is I remember when this whole bet thing came out.
Your brother's a big better, isn't he?
Dude, like I would say something, and he'd go, "Oh yeah, bet." And the first couple times he said it, I was
So
just
weird.
like, "Okay, whatever." And then finally he said it for like a fourth or fifth time, and I'm like, "All right." And this is with my younger brother. I'm trying to sound cool.
Very, very stupid people.
Is that what we're looking for?
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
That's a good one.
I mean, that's all I can think of when I'm hearing people. And that's probably how.
What the hell's wrong with you guys?
That's good too. And the dumbest thing is they're not abbreviating.
No.
Our slang abbreviated stuff.
Our slang was all just abbreviations,
They're
which was
coming up
funny.
with longer ways to say things.
yeah, at least we were being
We were saying
efficient
most
with
deaf,
language.
you know.
At least
like,
millennials are efficient. Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's, so he like, and here, you know, I'm the oldest brother. I'm trying to, you know, still be cool. I want them to look up to their oldest brother. There's a,
I'm still hip, guys.
yeah, there's a persona I'm
Hello,
still trying to
fellow kids.
maintain here in my mid 30s, and but I couldn't help myself. And about the fourth or fifth time he said bet, I just had to go. Are you like, is this a challenge? Like, is bet like short for wanna bet? Because like I remember in like the 90s, you know, you'd be talking with your friends. And, oh yeah, I want to bet. So that's where I figured it was coming from, right? Like just shortened up, like, oh yeah, bet. I'm like, no, I don't want to bet.
The one with my brother
And he's
was
like, no, dude, I'm saying bet, like means like yeah.
It means
I'm like,
affirmative.
why not just say yeah? What? Like you're being unnecessarily, and I hate to even give
sound
it
so
this
old,
word, but
but
you're
I
being
get you.
unnecessarily innovative. You're not innovating anything. You're recreating the wheel with another round thing. Like there's no difference.
Kids are bumming my melanis, man.
Oh my gosh, it drives me nuts. And then the amount of times that they would respond with the word bruh, but the inflection, it was all in the inflection. So if you said something that they didn't like, it'd be like a bruh. Bruh.
you guys
Like a how dare you, but with one word going bruh.
bruh. I remember my brother saying like, "Yo, low key," like that's It reminds me of See Me Bros. If you guys have ever seen Real Bros of Simi Valley now, which is hilarious. It's kind of like a characterization of all this, but yeah, that was one of those things I was like, I don't think I'm speaking what the youths are speaking anymore. I feel
I feel so totally lost.
But I've always been more of an old soul anyways, so go figure. I don't know. But I was always, I still like the old school 90s slang, you know, like, dude, that's rad, you know, and things of that nature.
We won't let it die. Don't worry.
You know, you just got to keep it going.
Still here. Still riding that wave, man.
Yeah, I
mad.
I think that
Red the Nar, you know,
to be out in the open with all the theories that I'm building, degradation of language is a whole nother theory that I've got a page on that I'm building out, and we'll share
the biggest
when
thing that's
I'm ready.
Contributed to that is text messaging.
Potentially, but I don't know.
I don't think so.
Hugely.
I don't think so.
Well,
I think what's contributing to it is the lack of reading. Texting is no different than emails. It's no different than writing a letter, which our ancestors have done for hundreds of years. All it is a form of communication. The form of communication didn't get dumbed down. The form of communication got faster, more efficient, and more advanced.
But
the
still
communicator,
it did. Here's what I think happened too.
Has been dumbed down.
I
agree with that, but I think
vocabulary is smaller than it's ever been.
I'm going to agree with both of you guys, though, but I think the frequency of information back and forth, like back in the day, you'd actually think out what you're writing in a letter.
Sure.
You have to send it. There was a lot, and you know, when you read, you'd have to literally. It's an active form of entertainment versus a passive form of entertainment, like most of the stuff we're looking at today. But on top of that, we don't have to use our brains to find answers anymore because we have something in the palm of our hands that can give us any answer we need. So there's no
if
capacity
information is easier to access and there's more information out there and it's at our fingertips, why wouldn't our vocabulary grow?
Because we don't need to learn anymore.
Right. We can look up what we need to look up if we need to add additional words.
Why wouldn't communication have gotten better?
So think of it this way. If I need to write a report for school, I have to go to the library, find all the sources that I'm going to use. I need to learn this information, write it all down. And I have to retain that knowledge that I've now learned because I can't just access the library anytime I'm mid-conversation at some point in my life. If there's information that I want to present to you right now, I just pull out my phone and I can look it up. I don't have to retain it. I don't need to be concerned with that because I have access to it at my convenience.
People aren't using it.
Well, they use it when they need it.
But they must not need it.
But you see what I'm saying about the convenience is I don't have to learn anything.
Because you have,
I can access
but it's not a have to. You still have school.
Boobs on Instagram, so guys are just like distracted constantly.
Yeah.
They're not writing letters to their sweetheart.
So there have been studies that show the difference.
Aren't allowed in school. So you still have. It doesn't matter whether it's on your phone or at the library.
Well, that's also why grades are failing.
You still got to write the book report. My response is that the teacher demanding that you write the book report, A, isn't even reading it, or B, their standards have been lowered from past standards.
I think that as well.
So we've got the entire library in the palm of our hand, yet we know none of it. I don't think people are looking anything up. I know you say it's available. I agree with you that it's available.
I think they're just not retaining it the same. But to go back to your previous point, there have been studies about the differences between reading from a book and reading from your phone, writing out a handwritten letter, or texting. And I'm pulling that out of my ass because I don't have anything from that to share with you, but there have been studies that have been done about the differences between them, how it affects your brain, how it affects your intelligence.
I'll give you a great example. In the past, the manual for your car would tell you how to properly gap your spark plugs. Your spark plugs have a little pointy deal. And then there's a gap between the point and a little L bracket. You used to have to get that gap just right to get that spark the certain length. So the manual in your car would tell you what that gap was supposed to be, and then you would use they're called feeler gauges.
And it's about $11
those
at Napa Auto. I suggest any pro hose buy one.
feeler gauges.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so you know what they are. So
Anyone
now
who's changed their spark plugs should have
the
them.
car manuals that you get now tell you not to drink the battery acid.
Speaking of battery acid, let's talk a little bit about Gen Z's.
Hold on, let's give just a half a breath for that point to sink in. Now the manuals tell you not to drink the battery acid.
Right. They don't tell you how to gap the spark plugs anymore. They just tell you not to drink the battery acid. So it has nothing to do with the amount of information available or how available it is.
It's how they use it.
It has to do with the person either not accepting the information, not being it. I don't know, because I feel like I'm not that person.
We got to find a deeper cause, and it's probably more nefarious than we even
probably
have uncovered in these small theories we presented here today.
I'm still going to go back to my theories. I think giving your children to the state and mom and dad being less involved.
And that's a nefarious piece for sure.
Yep. So anyways, do we want to explore some of this language here? Any idea?
I want to dare to go into this with a closed mind.
Can somebody give me a definition for bussin'?
Yeah. Oh, did you want to go?
No, take it away. Bustin'.
Bustin'.
Tell me what bussin' means.
So if you say something's bussin', you're meaning, wow, that's fantastic. That's excellent.
So you know what's funny? I had trouble looking these up and trying to find ones because they all mean the same damn thing.
Yeah.
It's dope. It's dupe. It's bussin'.
I mean, to be fair,
it's all a bunch of
always
freaking made up words that mean the same damn thing.
Fire on God.
It's fire on God, no cap. Like, okay, my generation would just go, that's cool.
You know what I think is pissing us off the most is that all of these things, like you said, mean the same thing. These kids are so damn positive all the time. Why are they so excited?
Here's one that I actually had to ask. I think she might even be Gen Z. She dropped the word in front of me like 3 times, and I felt like the old man with gray hair in the room. I had to ask what it was. Chuggy.
What?
Chuggy.
I was there for this.
Justin was there, hanging out at a friend's house, and his wife was throwing this word around, chuggy. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be that person who asks this stupid question.
Wait, let's try to guess.
Chuggy. Cheugy. Chuggy.
This had been the first time I'd ever heard that either.
Is
I'd
that
never
like,
heard anybody use this phrase before.
Let me guess. It's like fancy.
No.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like,
you'd think
because it kind of sounds
bougie.
like bougie.
Bougie, almost, yeah. You'd think it'd be ritzy.
Chuggy, pronounced as chuggy, is used to describe something which is cringe, not cool, or trendy, or
like this stupid frickin' word.
To try hard. Definitely not a compliment. Example, those shoes are so last season, so chuggy.
I think of it as like tasteless.
God, I can't think of a word that pisses me off more than chuggy.
I can't wait for her to hear this.
See, because the thing
oh my gosh, it's not personal. It's just, are you freaking kidding me?
Oh man,
chuggy.
Like our words actually were real words that we used as millennials. That's
ugly,
tight. That's sick.
It's an ugly, awkward word in your mouth. Hey Timmy, do you want some meatloaf? Chuggy, chuggy. Yeah, buddy, it's real chuggy.
I'm just sad.
It's real chuggy. Yeah, can we take a moment?
What is happening to our world? Language being degraded.
The disconnect is vast.
Being dumber. Mothers not caring. Fathers. Okay.
Father's crying alone in the garage.
Oh my gosh.
All right, let's keep moving on. I got to hear more of these.
Delulu. Can
you use it in a sentence, please?
You can't use any of these in a sentence.
Bernie Sanders is Delulu.
It's exactly what it sounds like. It's
delusional.
It's more 90s than you would think.
But it's like baby talk. This isn't even cool. I mean, come on, people.
You know what's funny? That is one. I'm baby. That's a Gen Z phrase. I'm baby. I'm baby.
You're underage and
used to describe something that you are not good at or a novice at in a cute way. It can just be used alone to indicate that you are childlike or vulnerable. Example, please don't be mad, I'm baby.
Could you imagine a man using this word? I mean,
somebody hit me with a car.
All right.
I've heard a man use that word or that phrase.
Finna.
Oh, I've been using finna since I was like,
yeah.
That, to be fair, that's like a Southern word, right? Like, I'm finna do this.
I'm fixing to.
Fixing
or
to
I'm
do.
going to. I'm finna.
So didn't we already have gonna?
Yeah, but we changed it.
So why not just use gonna?
Because gonna is abbreviation for going to. Finna is abbreviation for I'm fixing to. It's Southern.
See, like I've heard it in the Southern context, but I've never heard it up north here.
I bet you I was 30 years old for the first time I heard finna.
No.
Yep.
I was using that in middle school.
No cap
How
on
often
God.
have you been to the deep
God.
South?
I was born there.
Well, I don't think
you
it's
weren't.
even.
I sure was.
I don't think
No,
it's,
you were born in the South, not the deep South. The
Well,
deep South
all
is
right.
like the dirty South. You
All
know what I
right.
mean?
I don't
They're
think it's
not in the
strictly
dirty
deep
South.
South. I think it's Ebonics.
I would move to where you were born.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Maybe, I don't know.
Low key, high key. It's exactly what it sounds like, and it's dumb. All these are dumb. Now, all right. I got one that Riz.
I only know this because of Content Machine. Have you guys ever watched it?
Do you know where it comes from? So here's what I find interesting.
I don't know.
I wonder how many Gen Zers would actually, they might be able to give a definition for the word, but I'm wondering if they know where it stems from.
See, nobody knows their origin story.
Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Risen
Nobody
again?
meets the Riz.
No. So, and this would be an interesting deal to go around to like a high school or a middle school, and everyone there is going to know Riz, and they're going to know roughly what it means. But I want to know if they know, like, and I hate that I'm going to say this. I'm wondering if anybody can articulate the root word that Riz comes from, because essentially it is short for something.
It's not risen.
No. Charisma.
Oh.
And I bet you no Gen Alpha or Gen Z would be able to articulate that it actually comes from the word charisma. I bet you they would all say it means smooth. It means you got game. It means you're good with the ladies. That's what they would say. But it actually stems from the word charisma. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you'd actually just learn real English vocabulary and increase your reading level, which is at an all-time low in the US, which I think is why instead of learning words, we're just creating nonsense ones.
I mean, to be fair, we speak American English. So what you just said is the exact same thing as saying you would have a better grasp of the English language if you just understood Latin.
That too.
Yeah.
That's part of being educated.
To be fair.
The state's not educating anymore. Pull your kids out of public school. Stop. For the love of God, keep them home.
PSA.
Seriously, I don't get this. The people who defend public school, I will never understand.
But Andrew, it's free.
So I never thought about this the other day, but I always think, oh man, private school's so expensive, you know, and I have clients and stuff that talk about the cost of their kids' education. It's very expensive. Sometimes it's 30, 40, 50K a year.
Yeah.
For some reason, I never connected the dots and thought, how much does it cost to send a student to public school? How much of our tax dollars are going to pay for that kid's education? And in many cases, it's 2 or 3 times what we're paying for that same private school education. Yep. So that to me was mind-boggling. You know, I don't plan to send my kids to any institutions.
School vouchers. That's what we need.
Homeschool.
School vouchers.
School vouchers would solve a lot. Get competition into it, and yeah.
To be fair, we pay more for an inmate's year in prison than we pay for a student's year in public school.
Yeah,
our tax dollars.
I'm not saying we're not doing enough. Here's the thing, though. I'm not convinced that if we put more money into the education,
There you go.
that we're going to get a better outcome to that student. And that's always the guilt trip is, hey, we need to add $1 million to the budget here in this county to make sure students are getting a better education. I'm not convinced of that. You could have a book. Yeah.
That's it.
But we need our kids on Michelle Obama's meal plan.
More money does not mean your kids get better educated. And we can see this from all of the demographical stats.
I need the freaking government to give me receipts. I need to see where that $28 billion was lost, you know.
All right, there, Cardi B, settle down.
Yeah. $7,000 to fluoride.
Right, but didn't they lose $28 billion in California to their homelessness initiatives? They can't find where it went. And I was looking at a Bernie Madoff documentary the other night, and he was crucified for stealing like $64 billion, which is no question a lot of money, but that's like a fart in the wind in the Congress's budget. So,
you know, I'm pretty sure by now everyone has heard Joe Rogan talk about how much money the Pentagon misplaced conveniently the day before 9/11.
Nobody gets fired for that.
And then where the plane hit the Pentagon seems to be exactly where those files would have been kept, or the evidence of those lost funds, those misplaced funds. Donald Rumsfeld, I think, is the person who came out and said, "Yeah, we don't know where this very, very, very large amount of money went."
They have no footage of the plane going into the Pentagon.
Anything public, anything public school, anything government related, just stop it. Go. Competition has always been a good thing. Pull your kid out. Demand school choice, get vouchers. It's ridiculous that people don't care for the competition that should be had for their kids' education. I mean, I want the best teacher. I don't want the teacher who's just there. So, I don't know.
Amen.
Stan. Do we know what Stan means?
From
it's
South
not,
Park?
It's not short for Stanley. The Gen Z word,
I had to look it up
Stan.
once. Is it related to the song that Eminem?
That's what I thought.
Like I stand, or
Do you stand?
Is it related? Because he's a crazy fan.
Still ain't calling.
Because he's that crazy fan that keeps writing them.
Yeah. So
and don't they like stand with this person? Like they're obsessed with what that person's saying.
I thought it had to do with that. But at least in this, no mention of Eminem. But apparently it's a combination of stalker and fan. If you stan someone, it means you're obsessed, but not in a creepy way. God, you know what? You know where my frustration comes with all this? It makes me feel so old. I'm not old. We're not old. Guys, come on.
I feel old.
Stop. No, we're not old.
I'm doing my stretches.
The other day, my brother looked at me and he's like, "Wow, with that haircut, it really shows how many gray hairs you have." I'm like,
"Yeah, I've had that comment on occasion." It's like, just wait.
Say less.
Is that what you told your brother? Or?
Well, maybe I should have.
I don't know. It's like shut up in the most gay way possible.
No, it means like you don't need to explain further, or you didn't need to explain to that extent.
I already get your point. Hey, bro, I agree. Say less. I can't say less. I already said what I said. What do you mean say less?
Say no more. Let's go. Yeah, that's kind of like a more manly way to put it.
I don't know. I don't know how these kids think they're cool. Take several seats. If someone is really getting on your nerves, you might tell them to take several seats.
I want you to sit back down more than once.
You know what that makes me think of?
Lizzo?
If you're going to take several seats, it's you got the ass to fill them.
She's taking the whole aisle on the plane.
No question. No question. Could you imagine being like stuck on a Spirit flight with Lizzo next to you?
Yeet. Yeet. What does yeet mean?
Is that like yee?
Yeet can be used in a few different ways. Yeet can mean excitement or approval of something generally. Or it can be used to describe something being thrown with force and not caring about it. Examples,
Yeah, I've heard that.
I'm keen for the concert. Yeet, or he yeeted his tennis racket across the court. These words are meaning. You can't have such vast definitions for the same word. This is just telling me
English,
that
baby.
Gen Z doesn't know how to talk. They don't know how to communicate. It's all tone and inflection based. None of it is actually the definition of the word
literally
based.
just sounds, and then they attribute meaning to the sound.
That's exactly what it is. That's what language is to begin with.
Yeah, but
these are fantasy land imaginary sounds that my tone and inflection will give the definition to the sound instead of the sound being its own definition. Frustrated. I am frustrated right now. And when I say I'm frustrated, you all know what I mean because we all know what the word frustrated means. I don't on God.
Do you think he's like frustrated on Cap? No, God.
No Cap. He's fire. No, that's not right.
Upper decky, a term for a Zyn nicotine pouch that's placed against the upper gums.
Upper decky.
I just think of upper decker, like when you poop on top of in like the top part of the toilet and you just screw the plumbing up for someone.
I don't think I've ever seen Heidi without an upper decky. Now, Letter Kenny type language. You guys know Letter Kenny?
For sure, bud.
Yeah, the Canadian show.
Tarps off, bros.
I don't think so.
Oh my God. I can't even do it because there's...
Fuck you, Shorzy. Fuck you, Jonesy.
I don't know. You're sounding to me like the South Park Canadian.
Almost.
I mean, that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
Come on, guy.
It's a very wordy show. It's very clever. Like some guys are able to throw this lingo off the dome piece, as they might say. I can't do it. I can't even replicate
Slow down,
it.
Sonny. You're spitting at me quicker than a rat's shake of a tail.
Yeah. Something like
weird
that.
like that.
Yeah. You get more ornery than your mom with a bad haircut on a Saturday night when I'm hitting that from behind. Like just
slick quips like that.
Yeah.
It's clever dialogue on that show. It's worth a watch just for the dialogue.
So that's what that reminds me of. There's a kid on YouTube who does these golf videos where he talks about, I don't even know what he talks about. He just says a bunch of random Gen Z verbiage similar to the style in Letter Kenny. He's like, I'm going to toss in one of these upper deckies, see? And I'm going to blast this sumbitch to space. Watch this. I can't even do it. All right. Well, that's this week in Midwest Nonsense. Anybody else got any comments? I'm just upset now.
I'm glad it's done.
Yeah, please end it.
That was painful. The Midwest ain't big enough for all this nonsense. All right. Well, war is in the news. Let's skip on over to Jaime and see what he's got to say. Are you wanting to take a break? Is that what you're... Oh.
Good evening. I'm Jaime Smith. You're listening to Midwest Sense News.
So, World War III is upon us. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken came out and said that Ukraine will be joining NATO. I can't think of a better way to punch Putin in the punani. Leave it up to our feckless leaders to pit the ultimate boogeyman, Russia, against us by meddling in old country affairs from across the pond, of which we have no business messing around with. But Bustin, I believe you've got some interesting information about the Freemason Albert Pike.
I do. And so I want to preface this a little bit. So we're not going to go deep into Freemasonry. You guys probably know a little bit about that group. It's kind of a fraternity. Basically, it's kind of like an ancient order that grew out of the Knights Templar. Mm-hmm. And then when the Knights Templar were excommunicated from the Catholic Church, they kind of dispersed, went into hiding, rumored that they had possession of the Ark of the Covenant, which is currently residing in Ethiopia. But
the Freemasons have possession of the Ark of the Covenant?
We could talk about the Ark of the Covenant in a later episode. It was rumored that the Knights Templar took that with them.
All right.
They grew into the order that they began to call Freemasons. So there's a lot of controversy around the group. Some think it's satanic, this mysterious, exclusive brotherhood of people. There's a hierarchy. There are different levels to it. But, in the shadows, who knows? We don't know. On its face, it's a group of respectable men that does a lot of charity around the world, really. But there are tons of, they call them lodges. That's their like headquarters. And you'll find multiple of them around any city. You'll pass an old building downtown and you'll see the symbol of Freemasons on there, which is the
compass,
the compass and the ruler. Yeah. So
I've got a friend who I think he's a 3rd degree Freemason.
Okay. So what got me interested in Freemasonry in the first place is kind of just an anecdotal story, but one day, a couple years back, I decided to Google search my grandma's obituary. She died when I was in 5th grade. So I find her obituary, and along with that, there's a picture on the internet of her gravestone. And on her gravestone, with her name, her birth date, her death date, right next to that is a pentagram.
Oh, wow.
What?
A pentagram. And I was like, hey, Dad,
Frightening.
why is there this satanic symbol on my dear grandma's gravestone?
Jeez.
And apparently she had been a member of what is called the Order of the Eastern Star, which is a sect, that's right. So apparently it's a sect of Freemasonry of which women are allowed to join.
Oh, funny.
So this was created in the 1850s in the USA, and it was accepted by the Freemasons as an official branch of Freemasonry in the 1870s. So to be a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, for a male, you have to be over 18, and you already have to be a master Freemason. So above your 3rd level master.
Vader.
And if you want to be a woman who's a member, you have to have a significant relationship with a male or a family member who's already in this. So apparently my grandma's sister, mother, and father were also members. So I'm assuming, because I don't know all the family history, I don't have a way to find it at this point. They're all passed on that side of the family. So I'm
Is this your dad's side?
Yeah. So great-great-grandpa probably was a Freemason, a master Freemason, and then got his wife.
Is there a level
involved.
associated with the title Master Freemason?
I haven't.
Because 33rd is as high as it goes.
Allegedly.
Does it have any satanic roots?
So it's non-denominational. They do require that their members.
So they don't have to wear nice clothes to the satanic rituals.
Oh no, it's all business professional. But
okay.
So they're wearing suits and stuff.
I thought because of non-denominational,
they're non-denominational, but they do require that you claim to be of a religion.
Greg, you're going into you're going to be inducted into level 12 next weekend. Sure am. Oh, all right. I don't know if anybody told you, but make sure you bring that goat. You're gonna need a goat.
I'm not gonna tell you what for. I would bring a change of clothes as well. So they require you to have a background and adhere to a specific theology, but they don't require any specific one. So they'll take Jews, Catholics, Protestants, whatever.
Yep. I have heard that.
So with the Order of the Eastern Star specifically, and what was so weird to me about this pentagram is it's carved in, and around the gap between each point of the star are the letters FATAL, fatal.
Do it again.
So what fatal allegedly stands for, and somebody maybe leaked this at some point, because you're not supposed to be told what it's for until you reach a certain level of the Order of the Eastern Star. It's supposed to stand for fairest among thousands, altogether lovely.
No cap.
Which is no cap on God, a
No
reference
cap
from
on God.
It was all in caps.
a reference from Song of Songs. So the
Okay.
Order of the Eastern Star seems to be a little bit more adhering to the Bible than Freemasonry. And what they kind of follow, because it's more geared toward women, this one specifically, they use character building lessons from biblical figures, specifically Ada, representing virtue and obedience, Ruth, virtue and religious principles, Esther, virtue of loyalty, Martha, virtue of endurance in trial, and Electa, from 2 John, the virtue of endurance of persecution.
So when the men, the Freemason men get together for their group, you know, obviously they're swapping strategies and ideas of
knows what they're swapping?
of ruling the world. When the women get together, are they? Is it like a cookbook swap? Are they swapping recipes?
Essentially, that's kind of what I gather.
How to feed the men who are going to rule the world? Is that kind of the idea?
They do have dietary restrictions, so
no shellfish on Fridays. No, so they.
George doesn't like gluten, so
Yeah.
you know.
No, like I said, really on its face, these are charitable organizations. So there are lots of donations, fundraising, other things like that. But
I think Jeffrey
in the
Epstein,
shadows-
the financier, was involved in a few charitable organizations as well.
just a few. So in the shadows, no one really knows, and that's why there's this controversy, because they do have rituals and pageants
That are very sus.
specific things that they'll do.
Stands
Like
for
when you
suspect.
reach a certain level, before you're inaugurated to that next level, there's, you know, all this stuff behind it. I didn't mean to go this deep into the history of that. So
It's your grandma, you know, you gotta look into these things.
it's what made me
That is
interested
bizarre,
in the
though.
family
That's a
history.
really-
And I wish I could learn more about it, but like I said, that side of the family's gone, so I don't have that history. But Albert Pike was allegedly a 33rd degree Mason, and most of that can be corroborated. It's true that he was a Mason. He was also a lawyer and a bunch of other stuff. And this is back in the 1800s, 1850 to 70 is the period that we're talking about. So
He played a part in a war, didn't he?
He was part of the Confederate States.
Yep, he was a colonel in the
In
Confederate
Arkansas?
States.
Wasn't he in Arkansas?
Civil War. Yeah, Arkansas Supreme Court. He was an associate justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court in exile from 1864 to 1865.
So he had his hands in more than a few pies, and he
wrote several books as well. He wrote The Meaning of Masonry, Morals and Dogma. What is this? Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish. That's a long title. Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So he's right in there in the center of everything you're talking about.
in the center of everything.
But yeah, for context, you know, he was around during the Civil War. 1809, died April 2nd, 1891.
Mm-hmm. So he died before any of the world wars. But what we're going to talk about here is a letter that Albert Pike allegedly wrote.
I'm looking at it now. It's wild.
To Giuseppe Mazzini, who was an Italian revolutionary leader in the mid-1800s, as well as allegedly the director of the Illuminati. And what Giuseppe Mazzini is also credited with is bringing Italy together and forming young Italy.
Sure.
So he basically created the government format that exists there today. So this letter, it kind of crops back up every few years. There's this controversy around it because it's a conspiracy. Because allegedly this letter was on display in the British Museum Library up until 1977. And now at this point, the library claims that it never existed, that they never had it in existence.
Do we know if it was actually in the library?
No. And that's why they're able to claim that they never had it, because there's, at this point, no proof, at least no proof that's come forth. But the Smithsonian makes those kind of claims as well, with treasures and things, artifacts that have been stolen from cultures, stolen from other countries, or stolen by them from our own country.
And then they come out and say they never had them.
That they hide in the archives, hide away in basements and storage, and say that they don't have them, including skeletons of giants. But we won't get to that tonight.
Yeah, that's a fun conversation for another day.
So here's the letter. And even if this letter is not true, I read it among the same vein as C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape letters.
Right.
If you know, you know.
You do. Yep.
So
demons talking to each
that's
other
some
about
Gen Z
humans.
slang right there.
If you know, you know. So that's how I read it. Even if this is a conspiracy that is inevitably false, what he says or what is said in this perhaps forged letter is still relevant. So it's basically describing what needs to be done and the methods used and the reasons for 3 world wars. And remember, at this point that it was written, it was 1870 before any of the world wars, and he died in 1902, 1910?
It looked like the end of the 1800s, like 1891.
He died
in 1891.
1891, so he died before a world war ever occurred. But this letter is laying the groundwork for what the wars would be about. Let me read this quick.
And they were correct on the first 2.
Yes. So, the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Can we agree that that was the effect of the First World War?
Yes.
Historically. Goes on to say, the Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine, which occurred 1946.
You know, it's funny. I had an Israel-Palestine bit that happened on April 19th. I don't remember the date, but I had it on this day in history, but in an effort to scale down that section, I removed it.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was today of all days?
Yeah. I know it was like a riot, something that took place.
Something controversial.
I don't remember the year, but I keep reading and I'll pull it up because that would be interesting if that was on par.
So I'll go back, sorry. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine, which Israel became a sovereign state very shortly after the Second World War, or in the middle of it. I can't remember the time.
I believe it was after. Because,
I think it was shortly after.
Yeah, just shortly after, because a lot of people said the Holocaust would have never happened if Israel was a state. Yeah.
So during the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm.
Wow.
That is what's happened to Christendom, Christianity, in the after effects of the Second World War. Most probably don't attribute it to the Second World War, but when you put it in this perspective, you could see that it could have been cause and effect.
You'll probably get to this, but Pike, some people, from what I'm just looking at here, not knowing much about him, was he a devil worshipping individual? Was he a Satanist?
Allegedly, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because someone, there's...
But that's the thing about Freemasons
Masonic
is they will
leader
always
or devil
deny that.
worshiping prophet. Yeah.
They will always deny that.
Did you have
And I don't know if I buy it.
Did you read a year for the Palestine-Israel thing?
No.
What does it say?
Either during or after the Second World War, so if we compare those dates.
So 1936, first day of the Great Uprising in Palestine, anti-Jewish riots break out.
In 36.
April 19th, 1936.
And what were the dates of the Second World War?
End of the 30s. I know it ended in 1945.
Just so we can get all these straight before I move on.
Yeah, so I said 1936, September 1st, 1939 to September 2nd, 1945 was World War II.
Okay, and when did Israel become a sovereign state?
May 14th, 1948.
Okay, so these dates do all line up. And again, if this is a fake letter, it would line up because they're going to go with the historical accuracies. But
on May 14th, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, the head of the Jewish Agency, proclaimed the establishment of the State of Israel. U.S. President Harry S. Truman recognized the new nation on the same day. So they're saying 1948, creation of Israel.
So now we move on from history, which this lines up and this is factual with what happened afterwards. So now we move on to a prediction, and from the point of view, if this were true, he's predicting all of it, but I'm looking at it more of as a ground plan because, again, we're thinking that this man was a high member of the Illuminati, a shadow organization, unelected officials controlling the governments of the world.
Was he a part of the Illuminati, or
allegedly
in his letter he's warning people of that the Illuminati are going to take
in his
these
letter
actions?
he's writing specifically to Giuseppe Mazzini, who allegedly was the leader of the Illuminati, and this man Albert Pike was such a high level of masonry. The conspiracies state that when you get to that high level, that's when they introduce you to the Illuminati and you become part of their shadow organization. So we're not giving all that any credence, really. We're just looking at this letter for what it is. The facts that were stated about the First and Second World War. If someone were to lay out a ground plan for what needs to happen and how, this was it. And this is what he says about the Third World War. It must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. So draw some parallels to what's happening in the world right now. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim or Arabic world, and political Zionism, or the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. And again, this is not a letter that was written yesterday and then faked. This has been cropping up for years and years, and that's why people believe that it was in that British Museum back in the 70s, up until the 70s. People are still contacting and have contacted for years the museum saying, hey, we want references to this. And they're just denying that it ever was there.
Do we have a date that they were first contacted about this?
Not a date that they were first contacted, but in the 70s is when they started denying that it was ever there. And I would be curious, and I would look into what happened within that year that made them claim, no, we never had it. It's no longer here. We never had it.
So I would go out on a limb and say, even if this letter is not written by Albert Pike, let's say it was written in the 60s, even the person writing it in the 60s has some prophecy going on
about
here.
World War III.
About World War III.
About World War III.
Deep dive and read the signs and see what's to come. And it's biblical too. It's just biblical.
I'm more impressed the first two wars, if that's true, like if they can date it back to 19 or 18, whatever.
Yeah.
That he hit twice in a row and had those. What I'm wondering about is those terms. Did he have insight to those terms? Some people I'm reading the same letters you're reading right now,
and that's why people are saying
the term behind the scenes.
That's why people are saying, oh, it can't be real because those terms weren't widely used. And
unless
then
the Illuminati was involved in
creating the terms in the first place.
Exactly.
And I watched an interview with a higher up Mason who's saying, no, I've read, his other works. I've read Albert Pike's other books. He doesn't use a lot of these words. They're just weren't in his vocabulary. So why would he suddenly use them in this letter? Well, this letter is addressing an individual
Demons.
in a specific way.
In private.
But I mean, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. Continue with the letter though. This is fascinating.
So he just said, Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will now show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then, everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
It sounds like it's leading to the mark of the beast, rise of the Antichrist.
Kind of sure does, bud.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but again, the caveat that we're saying, if this is all true, I find it interesting because how many of those videos have been coming out for the last 5, 6, 7 years about Satanism in the music industry, Satanism in Hollywood, Satanism in you name it. We've got 1,000, at least 1,000 videos.
Come to light much more quickly.
Satanism in the White House, Satanism in politics, Satanism in child trafficking.
Yeah, before I read this, I never thought of it this way, but Christianity is obviously an opponent to atheism.
Yeah.
Christianity is obviously an opponent to Satanism, mortal enemies, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of atheism as an opponent or a detractor from Satanism. I had never thought of it that way. I never thought of the belief that there is no God also takes away from the belief that Satan is God.
I don't think so.
I don't know if that's
what this is saying, though.
I know that's what that's saying.
That's why it's saying take out Christianity.
I don't know that I agree on a fundamental level, though.
The interesting thing, though, is a lot of atheists or a lot of Satanists will say that they're basically goal-based atheists. Like, we're just trying to be all about self-improvement. We don't actually worship Satan or anything, but it's like...
And many of them don't, but
true.
They don't know.
And
they know not
why
what they
would
do.
the devil want to make himself real to someone who's going to do all the things they want, who's going to kill themselves basically in pursuit of this pursuit? I don't know.
Because that's what the devil ultimately wants is for you to worship yourself as long as you don't worship God.
He wants us all to die. He wants us to steal, kill, and destroy, seek, kill, and destroy, whatever. I think that goes beyond just
CKY?
That is Camp Kill Yourself, sir. But
no, CKY. Don't they have an album called Seek, Kill, and Destroy? Seek and Destroy? Something like that.
Seek and Destroy. There's a
Steal,
Metallica
kill,
song
and
by
destroy.
that. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to steal.
Devour.
To devour. That's another verse. But all that said, this is very interesting, and I don't think it's if we can prove that there's evidence of this, especially those first two letters being true, and we already are seeing a portion. I mean, it seems like the Middle East has been at war forever, but it does seem like things have turned up a notch when you've got basically, ever since October 7th, when there was basically a genocide taking place in Israel. Israel's retaliating to make sure it never happens again, but are they going to both
mutually assured destruction,
blow themselves off the face of the earth?
What I don't understand is I know everyone wants to take their nuanced perspective on this, but if we take a big picture snapshot of it, Israel is the big kid on the playground. Israel got punched, And now Israel is punching back, and we're supposed to be pissed off that they're punching. And
It makes no
I'm not
sense, yeah.
for or against Israel. I don't give a rip. Do whatever you need to do, I guess. I don't think we should be giving you money. Again, I think the U.S. should have nice high walls when it comes to our physical border, our financial border. We got problems at home. We shouldn't be donating to other people's problems. We got problems at home. Let's fix the leaky pipes at home.
If I could trust our government to be looking out for the best interests of its citizens and not be turning surveillance that they could use overseas against our enemies on its people, then I would disagree with you, because I do think, Israel is one of the only free nations in that part of the world, and they can provide us intel to what's going on. But I don't think that there's that much of an altruistic thing going on there. I do think Israel plays a huge part in this end time stuff, and I don't think it's something we should ignore and just think, oh yeah, who cares? They can figure. I think it's bigger than other wars that are taking place in the in the world.
If it is part of end
times of significance,
and the end times are going to happen like it was written, then it really doesn't matter what we do.
No, and
right, no. And you could argue there's a term or a phrase for this.
How boomer of you, just trying to self-preserve, do everything to get your last days, eke out every little penny here.
Man,
just kidding.
But there's a phrase for this, or a term for this, and maybe one of you guys know what it is. But it's when these people actively pursue the bad things that are going to bring about the prophecy. There's a phrase or a term for this where they want to usher in. Usher in these times, because it's.
I don't think that's possible.
And
but
like
I know
what Judas
saying.
did.
I mean, in a sense, but
theory, yeah.
but they're not Christians. They're not doing this for God or for Jesus, but they believe the biblical prophecies to be true, and so they're like agitators. Like they're purposefully going out there and seeking the Antichrist, or purposefully going out there and pushing these prophecies to become to try to force them to become true, to usher in end times. And I think there's a term or a phrase for this, and I can't think of what it is. But
speaking of foreign aid, though, that's kind of disgusting. Because we have no money, so it's kind of like being in $500,000 of credit card debt.
That's what I mean. Like, what are we even giving them?
Yeah. So ABC News, this is a story they broke 12 hours ago.
And to be fair, I'm pretty sure Israel operates.
They're a pretty independent country in terms of how they fight and everything. But all that said, we just passed, the House cleared a key procedural hurdle in passing foreign aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, with Democrats helping Speaker Mike Johnson avoid a defeat. The chamber voted 316 to 94 to advance the bills. And this is going to be a passage of $95 billion in foreign aid assistance. So I don't understand who's representing the people, because most people you see online, you talk to, don't want to send foreign aid overseas, even if you're a Democrat, even if you're an independent or a Republican. I don't understand who is voting for this besides the selfish politicians.
And the thing is, I don't even want to have the conversation of, does Israel deserve money? Should we be... I don't even need to have the moral conversation, because we have problems here and we're broke. So it's my understanding Israel operates at a surplus anyways. I don't think they have debt like we have.
Not 34 trillion, no.
Right. So
here's the other thing too.
Why are we even entertaining that conversation? We have bridges collapsing here. We've got potholes in the street.
I've heard
cities decimated by the homeless.
Let me tell you something I heard. I don't know how. I know there's accuracy to this. I just don't know at what level. But there's already contracts we have within our military-industrial complex that need to be fulfilled by Israel buying our stuff. So we're literally getting an economic benefit with Israel, which I don't think we're getting with Ukraine or Taiwan or anything. where
Like they buy products from us?
It's
They've already bought.
There's contracts in place already that like the military aid we're giving them comes back economically to benefit us, but not in a way that I would consider positive. Because
so we send them money and then they turn around and take our money and buy our stuff.
I suppose from American companies, yeah.
I think they've already bought our weapons. We haven't fulfilled the contracts yet.
We're paying them to buy our weapons.
No, I don't think we give as much aid to them as.
Well, and when we say that we're sending them 50 million in aid, that's the value of what we're sending them. That's not necessarily 50 million or 50 billion cash. They've already paid us.
It is 50 million or 50 billion cash
when you liquidate it. But what Ben is saying is, we already have that money.
They've
already paid us. We have yet to fulfill these contracts. We're still obligated to be supporting them because they've given us the money for the weapons that we are still sending them. We haven't fulfilled our contracts.
Why would we need a bill to do that? If they want to buy weapons from weapons manufacturers, we don't need to pass a bill saying that Israel is going to spend $50 million.
Well, it's not just weapons, it's planes, it's missiles, it's stuff that the U.S. is exporting to them and already has, and they've paid us for it. We still need to supply what they've paid for. So it can be misconstrued when we say we're sending them an additional $50 million worth of whatever. Yes, that's the value of what we're sending, but it has already been paid for.
I don't think that's what these bills are. I think these bills are gifts.
It might be additional, but I think what I'm saying is part of that.
It's not cash, though. I mean, it's military aid. Not that makes it any better.
Hold on. We say it's not cash, yet the government signs this bill. And let's say it's $10 million worth of ammunition. We go to the company, let's say Federal, and we say, hey, we have an obligation to send Israel $10 million worth of ammunition. So I get that we're not paying Israel $10 million in cash. We're actually paying Federal, in this example, $10 million in cash. And then Federal is sending them $10 million of ammo. So it's still costing the American people $10 million. I don't care if it's in frickin' bicycles. We're still paying for it.
Yeah,
so this whole thing is ridiculous.
I'm not defending it necessarily because I'm looking at...
Not only that, but Israel makes way better weapons than we do.
Yeah, they do. And they...
Small arms, right?
The Lil Ace. Dude, I want one.
The other thing is... so there's this unique partnership. And, part of this gets misconstrued in my brain because, we're always thinking biblically about Israel, and God's people. And now the Israel we have today is not necessarily the same Israel we're reading about in Scripture. But all that said, there's something I heard about, and I can look it up for a future podcast, but there's... if you speak poorly against Israel as a small business, they can take away your right to run that business. I forgot what it's called, but I don't understand the law. It's like you have to be... This
is a law in Israel?
In the United States of America.
What?
It is. I'll find it. But it's, you can't speak out against... And what I'm saying is there's people on the left.
Kanye West is onto something here?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't trust him, but he's maybe the most
I don't know.
person.
If I speak out against Kanye West, no one's coming to shut down my small business.
Well, what I'm saying here too is I just don't understand how the right and the left both want to fund Israel, as much as they can. Nancy Pelosi, there's videos of her talking about how she has an unbreakable bond with Israel. You see Lindsey Graham doing that. You see, I was just reading an article from 2016 about how Obama wanted to make sure he got a funding bill passed so there wouldn't be criticism of his support of Israel. So I don't understand why, at least from the United States perspective, there's such agreement on that. I always am suspicious. And now, again, you could make an argument we just have a uniparty anyway, but that to me raises my eyebrows.
I think Israel is important to both God and the devil. And either party wants to be on the winning side of Israel. when it plays out.
Well, now may be a good time to bring in the story of the day.
Yeah, from one fiery topic to another.
Yeah. No pun intended. I need to get a rim shot. That's what I need for this.
That pun was intended.
Yeah.
Folks.
But I wonder if our new fiery friend of the day would have something to say on his website about the relationship of the U.S. and Israel. And the hottest news story of the day, the New York Post, Max Azzarello, who set himself on fire outside Trump trial, stuck tongue out in old mugshot, appeared suicidal during arrest records. That's the headline of the New York Post story here. The man who lit himself on fire in a park outside former President Donald Trump's hush money trial was arrested 3 times in Florida last year. Here's my theory. Before we even get into this, I want to give the theory because I haven't read this article yet. We just pulled it up just now. This just happened today. April 19th. And after reviewing his website, he's got a Substack with some serious evidence and information. He spent over 1,500 hours putting together some research that he's done on cryptocurrencies, corruption in government, Jeffrey Epstein, you name it. My guess is they are going to do everything they possibly can to discredit this guy and make him seem like the kookiest, craziest psycho
without
out
question.
there.
Especially since he's primarily attacking the government in his critique. And who created the term conspiracy theory?
Right. Yep.
CIA.
The CIA. So, with that theory in mind, let's go ahead and read this article and see how many times even the New York Post, who is, they're usually pretty good about things. I think everyone's going to try to crucify this guy as your common madman psycho and give no credence to any of the research that he's done. In future episodes, we will be going over the information he has posted on his Substack, because I don't care what you say. If you don't find what he's posted, just the little bit that I've skimmed, if you don't find it compelling, there's something wrong with you.
Absolutely.
You're not paying attention.
You're not paying attention, or you're going along with groupthink, and you're going with your team. I'm team blue. I'm team red. This guy's crazy. He doesn't fit in either camp. No one should fit in either camp. That's my big thing. Anyways, the man who lit himself on fire in a park outside former President Donald Trump's hush money trial was arrested 3 times in Florida last year. Right there. The first sentence in the whole article is to pull out the past and discredit him. Did they do this with Rodney King? They should have.
I wish they had.
Yeah. Including for throwing wine at a framed autograph featuring Bill Clinton, according to police records. Max Azzarello?
Azzarello, I think.
Azzarello? Max Azzarello's legal trouble in the Sunshine State spanned several days, and he was hit with misdemeanor charges of criminal mischief and disturbing the peace, according to the records obtained by the Post. In one of his mugshots, Azzarello can be seen with his tongue sticking out and one eye closed. Ooh.
How dare he?
Oh, kooky. The 37-year-old's first run-in with St. Augustine police came August 19th, 2023, when he allegedly tossed a glass of wine at Bill Clinton's autograph on a wall protected by a frame inside the lobby of the Casa Monica Hotel.
Ironically, that Libs of TikTok post shows him in a picture with
hugging Bill Clinton. Yeah, arm in arm with Bill Clinton. The wine glass broke, spreading the wine on the frame, the wall, and the autograph, the report alleged. The wine stained the autograph and the surrounding wall when it ran down behind the frame. 2 days later, he again was arrested for allegedly stripping down to his boxers and yelling at customers in the same hotel as part of other erratic behavior, another report states. An officer also saw him allegedly get into a fountain on a nearby property and curse out hotel customers in an intimidating manner before he was taken into custody on August 21st. Then on August 24th, he was seen on surveillance video allegedly writing on a small sign outside the Little Free Library, breaking a pest control sign next door, according to a police report. Wait, this is nothing.
That's a smear campaign. What time was this article posted?
Yeah, let's see. These are all little nothing burgers.
Newsweek posted
April 19th, 10:42 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Okay, so a couple hours ago. So I have a New York Post article.
Eastern time.
I just want to read a quick headline here just to show you how stupid the media is. It's just a headline. Max Azzarello, who lit himself on fire at Trump trial, posted about Taylor Swift. Newsweek. What does that have to do with anything?
So they're grasping at straws, but it's for a purpose. It's misinformation. They're trying to mislead you and paint a picture of
propaganda.
I have another New York
They're
Post.
absolutely trying to detract people from his website.
Yep. So you just read a New York Post from this evening tonight.
Yep.
I have a New York Post that was already pulled up on my phone from earlier today. This article titled, "Who is the self-described investigative researcher Max Azzarello who set himself on fire outside Trump trial after spewing conspiracy theories?" So this one goes into a little bit more detail about him. The Florida man who lit himself on fire outside the Manhattan courthouse where former President Donald Trump's hush money trial was unfolding Friday is a self-described investigative researcher who appeared to become more erratic over the last year and spewed conspiracy theories about the elites in a lengthy manifesto. So they're calling his website and all of the articles that he's written and posted a manifesto, even though they are each individual conglomerations of evidence that he has spent 1,500 hours researching. Max Azzarello, well, self-described. He said 1,500.
Yeah, and I thought that was just on the crypto element.
It may have been just on the crypto. So Max, 37 of St. Augustine.
What's amazing is just scanning Twitter briefly before we all sat down is seeing how many financial guys are commenting going, hey, you can say whatever you want about this guy, but I've been talking about the warnings of Peter Thiel. This guy is just confirming all the crap that I've been saying.
Right.
And these are like Twitter talking heads in suits, and they don't look like this guy.
Yeah, they look well put together, respected members of society.
And they're agreeing that this guy's saying the stuff that they haven't been able to say.
Right.
Correct.
Right. And of course, like we're all pointing out, like you're saying, it's a smear campaign against this guy now.
And this proves that right here, this paragraph. Max tossed a stack of pamphlets into the air, which included links to a Substack newsletter apparently authorized by the self-immolator called The Ponzi Papers, moments before he doused himself in gasoline. So they're, in this earlier article today, they're referencing and giving you the lead of where to find this man's, conglomeration of work. They took that out of the article that you just read. They're not showing that. They're not giving you any leads to find further information about this kid and what he stood for.
This seems to be all stuff. I mean, it's a fairly long article, but it's all disparaging.
Yep.
Azzarello was misinterpreting a sign and was telling me that the pest control company was there to exterminate children and dogs, an officer wrote in a report. Sentenced to 180 days of probation and released. Azzarello also said he spent 3 days in the psych ward, although there was no way to immediately verify that claim. This is all stuff to just discredit him. There's no real information
here. So
here.
this earlier post even quotes...
And you can't get onto his website anymore. I mean, it's been less than 24 hours. And
the Substack's shut down?
I can't. I've been trying to log in. Maybe I'm typing it in wrong, but the Substack is gone.
So Andrew and I, thinking ahead, realizing that they were going to shut his shit down, went through his Substack earlier and saved as many of his articles as we could. So that
mine still loads.
Oh, good. You were probably just typing it wrong.
I was hoping that it was just me typing
Regardless,
it wrong. So
we have backups of his works for reference on future work.
Go check out the ponzipapers.substack.com. As far as I know, I turned every post he had into a PDF just in case they tried to take it all down. And I'm not giving any credibility to it by saying that. I want to read it and decide for myself.
We're going to do our own research.
Yeah, so after Peter Thiel started a bank run in March of 2023, we did 1,500 hours of research and uncovered proof of a totalitarian con job that's been bleeding us dry since 1988.
So basically, this guy goes in front of the courthouse today, trying to hand out pamphlets, basically with a summarization of his research, and then sits down, douses himself in gasoline, and lights himself on fire.
As far as my understanding. And he was still alive when paramedics left the scene with him on a stretcher. As far as I know, he's alive and in critical condition, but of course we'll be monitoring that. My question is whether the government is going to let him die and become a martyr, or even if he survives his injuries, if they're going to find another way to silence him. So,
will he ever get out of that hospital alive?
Right, that's my question right now. So just to do him honor, we don't know whether he deserves it at this point or not, but this is an intriguing, developing story.
But before you get into that, as far as the honor piece goes, there's crazy people.
For instance, the guy who self-immolated less than a month ago was a member of the National Guard.
May 19th, that was in 2019.
No, not that guy.
There's a guy who killed himself in protest
screaming "Free Palestine."
Oh yeah.
He had some health issues in the brain.
Just a couple.
Area.
Oh yeah. But this guy has obviously put together, and maybe it's all BS. Whatever. I don't know. We don't know yet. But if someone is willing to light themselves on fire for their convictions, or to try to get people to take notice of something, I'll take a look.
And this man had a little bit more to do that for than someone just screaming "Free Palestine."
Yeah,
that was just an empty show,
right?
So I just want to read this.
Those things are not created equal,
right?
For sure.
So Max posted this today on his Substack, or he has a shadow partner who posted it for him after the event. So this is what it says. My name is Max Azzarello, and I'm an investigative researcher who has set himself on fire outside of the Trump trial in Manhattan. This extreme act of protest is to draw attention to an urgent and important discovery. We are victims of a totalitarian con, and our own government, along with many of their allies, is about to hit us with an apocalyptic fascist world coup. These claims sound like fantastical conspiracy theory, but they're not. They are proof of conspiracy. If you investigate this mountain of research, you will prove them too. And he's alluding to the mountain of research that he is providing on his Substack. If you learn a great deal about Ponzi schemes, you will discover that our life is a lie. If you follow this story and the links below, you will discover the rotten truth of post-truth America. You will learn the scariest and stupidest story in world history, and you will realize that we are all in a desperate state of emergency that requires your action. To my friends and family, witnesses, and first responders, I deeply apologize for inflicting this pain upon you. But I assure you, it is a drop in the bucket compared to what our government intends to inflict. Because these words are true, this is an act of revolution.
How exciting.
That's bleeping exciting, sirs.
Yeah.
So you go to the website, I did finally connect to it, and there's just mountains of research. Like he says, lots of different avenues to look at.
He's got hyperlinks for anytime he seems to claim something. Look at the underlined words. There's a hyperlink.
There's so much to this that it's not gonna. We can't do it credit. We're gonna have to take more time to really investigate.
I'm excited. I think we figure out a way to make this a series, or this is its own separate thing, or whatever. But I'm excited. You guys come down this adventure with us. We're going to check this out. We're going to go post by post on this guy's Substack and read it through and come back with what we digested and what we see. And we'll look to see if it's wrong, and maybe he's some crackpot guy. But from what I've skimmed, this is some serious, this is serious traction here. I mean, there is something here.
Just a tragedy that it had to be done in such a way where he's now burnt to a crisp, whether he lives or not. So pray for him and his family, people.
Max, if you're hearing this, come on. We'll chat. But anyways, we'll follow this up in another episode and just go post by post and see what we can find. I hope you guys stick along for the ride. We want to thank you for visiting us in the flyover states. Come check out more at MidwestSense.com. And remember, we're just hindsight heroes being idiots on the internet. Shoot us a message if you'd like to join the conversation. The Midwest has room for you too. Thanks for coming. Drive safe. Same time next week?
Yes, sir.
Take care. Nothing?
I don't always have to have the last word.